Hey guys, how are all of you beautiful people? Hope all of you are doing fine, and yes, this is the next part of creating Naruto comic in Naruto world. Akaban was graduated from the University of Arts and Design in the 21st century, then suddenly traversed into the Naruto's world. By bringing my knowledge of arts and my love of Naruto comic, I decided to recreate Naruto comic here. So without any delay, let's start with the video. Damn, the feeling of being plotted against. When Akaban sensed Daimyo's gaze, he immediately felt that the third Hokage might have cheated him again. Akaban, big brother, they seem to be watching us. The little loli whispered. Not only Daimyo but also the guards around him. Akaban glanced around, seeing the Uzumaki clan children encircling Tomiko, and with the truck wrapped in red cloth, he became more sure of his guess. I was pitied. What they said to let the loli stay at his house and also change her surname temporarily was all pure nonsense. His heart is dripping blood and was angry, but at this time he has reached the point where he has to accept that he was pitted on, and seeing the little loli restless eyes, he starts talking to appease her worry. It's okay, Lord Hokage introduces you as guests from Uzumaki clan to Daimyo, your majesty. Oh, that's how it is. Tomiko is the daughter of the Uzumaki clan leader, and in a sense is also the prince of Uzumaki clan and land of whirlpools. In terms of identity, this rhetoric is justified, plus the little loli trusts Akaban, so she didn't further question him and believe what Akaban said. Soon everyone saw the third Hokage getting off the carriage and stand aside, waiting for the carriage to move. It didn't take long before Daimyo's carriage drove forward to the Temple of Fire. The two seemed to have reached some consensus, so they went to their destinations separately. Let's go back to the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen came back and said with a smile. Akaban did not speak to ask questions. With so many children around, it was not the time to ask those unnecessary things. The two had some kind of tacit understanding, and the entire group gradually relaxed when they reached outside Hidden Leaf Village. To the Konoha ninjas, this is their sovereignty. Any ninja from outside who wants to ambush them here will not only receive the anger of the god of Shinobi, but also the firepower of Hidden Leaf Village. A skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. Besides, it is not just Konoha who suffered heavy losses in the First World War. At this time, no ninja village dared to break ground with another village for fear of another war happening. At this time, Akaban walked to the front and asked in a low voice, "Teacher, what did you trade with Uzumaki Shikai?" Just in the name of boarding. The Daimyo is not backing down, so we need to give Daimyo a step and at the same time give him a guarantee. Sarutobi Hiruzen walked ahead and said slowly after spitting out the smoke. So, you sold me. Akaban gritted his teeth and said. In a sense, yes. Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a smile, but you are not without gain. Remember what I said about Uzumaki clan's special gift. Could it be that? Akaban's eyes widened, a little surprised. Well, you guessed it right, their sealing jutsu. Sarutobi Hiruzen said resolutely, the price the Uzumaki clan paid was their sealing jutsu. Hiss. Akaban sucked in a cold breath. This is one of the Uzumaki clan's capitals for being one of the strongest countries, and they are willing to hand it over. Thinking about it carefully, this is another escape route for Uzumaki clan. With sealing jutsu and Uzumaki bloodline, even if the land of whirlpools die, they can still rely on Konoha, and grow another Uzumaki clan. Compared to the extermination of the whole clan, this cost is much smaller. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but admire the patriarch secretly. Kekii Genkai of the Kurama clan is very strong, but when Keki Genkai grows up to a certain point, you should know, that kind of spiritual monster. Sarutabi Hiruzen slowly said. Well, it's actually because the spiritual energy is too strong, coupled with the abuse of using the ability too much, resulting in split personality. Akaban explained his own understanding. In a sense, it can also be considered as heart demon. Yes, but if you have sealing jutsu, your clan problem will be greatly alleviated. Sarutabi Hiruzen said in the second half. Akaban understands what he means. Any clan has its own secret jutsu, such as Nara clan's shadow imitation jutsu and Inuzuka beast imitation ninjutsu. Konoha has the power to know their characteristics and abilities, but they can't plunder other clans' secret jutsu, otherwise, it will be demolished by all ninja clans with the result of extermination of the whole clan. The new Uzumaki clan has only 12 children, but it does not affect the other clan due to their power. If there is no nominal intermarriage, the Kurama clan cannot get sealing jutsu. Older people really are like a fox. Third Kage is still young, but these methods have been able to play Akaban in his own hand. Akaban hates this feeling, but he has to admit that it will be beneficial to him to reach such a cooperation. You are so wise. He gritted his teeth and at the same time complimented him. It's nothing for this old man. Sarutabi Hiruzen happily smoked his cigarette, ignoring the anger implied in Akaban's words. Akaban slowed down and when he passed Tsunade, he heard Tsunade asking in a low voice, "What are you talking about? Did the teacher make any deal?" "You can directly ask teacher." Akaban sighed, not knowing how to face her, and returned to Lolita Miko's side. Little Loli didn't know what happened, but she could feel that Akaban was not happy, so she did not dare to ask. Akaban eases his emotions until they arrive at the gate. He figured it out, anyway, it's in name only, when the time comes, let his father and mother know of her as my sister. At the same time, he can change her surname and also live in the house. Perfect. Children, we are in front of Hidden Leaf Village, look. Sarutabi Hiruzen turned around and pointed to the door and said to the children. Hey, that logo looks like ours. The one in the middle is also a vortex. So Hidden Leaf Village and what Akaban Big Brother draws on his comics are exactly the same. These children have a manga in their hands, and they have already become curious about Konoha. At this moment, seeing the familiar vortex in the Konoha logo, they feel a little bit of belonging. Although this does not allow them to truly integrate into Konoha, it will not produce resistance and asking for immediate return because of being unfamiliar. More than that, all children looked towards Akaban, chatter continuously asking about the meaning of the sign. Konoha's mark is set by Lord First Hokage, and it symbolizes the inseparable friendship between Konoha and Uzumaki clan. Akaban smiled and said, in fact, Lord First Hokage's wife is the princess of your Uzumaki clan. Really? Now even Lolita Miko was surprised. It's true, my grandma's real name is Uzumaki Maito. Tsunade said proudly. It turned out to be like this. Tsunade elder sister's grandma. Tsunade elder sister, Grandma Maito looks good. The children quickly forgot about their new arrivals and happily talked about Maito Uzumaki. This is also the reason why they should choose children. They are pure white and flawless, although they have thoughts, they are easily changed and influenced. We are going to see Grandma now, when that time, don't be surprised. Tsunade has a mysterious smile on her face. To these children, she has a strong tolerance and patience, because she knows very well that they cannot go back to Land of Whirlpools, and they will be part of Konoha in the future. Good day, a child is always free of troubles, Akaban sighs in his heart, and at the same time, he feels a little nervous. As the guardian of Tomiko, he was ordered by the third Hokage to go with him, while the other children were going to meet Uzumaki Maito. He didn't notice it before, but now Akaban always feels that scene is weird. A group of children followed Tsunade to the site and were suddenly surprised by Senju clan's situation. Did we come to the wrong place? A boy said frankly. In the minds of these children, Senju clan represents the strongest clan in the world. The residence must be extremely luxurious, and not the one in front of them. A common and old courtyard without gates and clan marks. If it weren't for Tsunade who led the way, any outsider who came to the village for the first time wouldn't have thought that this was Senju clan, who was once famous all over the world. Ha ha ha, that's also what I said when my grandfather was alive, but my grandfather was not that kind of person. Tsunade laughed happily, but when she turned her head her face instantly turned cold. Indifferent to Akaban who was following them from behind, and said, "Let's go, everyone." "Hey, it's not my fault you know, even I got pitted." He thought silently, although he wanted to defend himself he didn't dare utter a single word to Tsunade who was currently in a bad mood and follow them towards the courtyard of Uzumaki Maito. If he can, Akaban doesn't want to see her, but if he doesn't show himself to her today, he will definitely suffer next time they meet. While walking, he comforted and encouraged himself. He didn't arrive at the courtyard yet, and when he was about to enter, Akaban heard a sigh from inside. "A certain child hasn't come for a long time, I don't know if there is any gift, ha tilde. I'm old, I really don't want to be seen now." Old. Coming from a grandma that has the appearance of a woman in her 20s, you call old. Akaban feels bitter in his heart, although she is supposed to have the age of his ancestor, but the way she currently looks is like a woman who just entered her 20s. The older she gets the prettier she became. Although he felt bitter inside, Akaban still replied with a smile on his face. "Although I don't have a substantial gift right now, I prepared a special gift only for Grandma." Entering into the courtyard's door he said politely. "Oh, what's the present?" Uzumaki Maito moved her rocking chair with a relaxed look. "Dang tilde dang tilde dang tilde dang tilde 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 the present is here." After a shout coming from outside, Tsunade jumped in from the door. In the next second, a bunch of red-haired children emerged from the door, followed by one after another cute and lovely face. These all are. Uzumaki Maito's face was stunned. After a while of surprise, she quickly recovered her gentleness and calmness. She smiled calmly, sitting in her chair with a temperament and demeanor as a princess of the Uzumaki kingdom and the wife of the god of Shinobi. "Children, come here, let your mother-in-law touch you." Although her face is calm, her slightly trembling hands reveal the excitement in her heart. The group of red-haired children that was in front of her was a little timid, but Uzumaki Maito's beautiful appearance and her red hair made them feel close to her. It didn't take long for little Loli to stand up first and walk towards her. "Mother-in-law." Good. "Oh tilde I know you are Tomiko. You are Shikai daughter, Uzumaki Tomiko." Uzumaki Maito has seen her, and she also has seen all the pictures of Uzumaki clan children. Her eyes swept around and saw their faces quickly matched their names. Is it only them? Seeing how few the children were, she was a little disappointed, adding a bit of sorrow to her heart. Well, only these 10 children come to Konoha. Tsunade actually understands to some extent why these children come to Konoha. At this moment, She understands Mito's feelings very well, but in front of the child, she can't express too much sadness even if she herself was also just a child. Little Tsunade, will they all live here? Uzumaki Mito smiles unabated but pays more attention to them. No, Tomiko lives in Ikeban's house. Tsunade said sourly. Huh? Uzumaki Mito was stunned, her eyes stared at Ikeban. What kind of operation is this? But she reacted quickly, and after a moment of silence, she nodded and said, I understand, Tomiko staying at Kurama clan is also a good choice. Uzumaki Mito is a very smart woman, it's just her worry to her clansmen that made her a little startled. And getting back her calm demeanor, she already guessed what it entails. As the daughter of a clan leader, how could Daimyo allow her to live in Konoha without arranging her that way? Okay, I'll take you around first, and identify where to live. Tsunade took the children away because she knew that Uzumaki Mito must have something to talk to Ikeban. Little Loli followed Ikeban and didn't want to leave. You can also follow them and take a look, this is also your family, so you don't have to worry. Ikeban said while caressing her head. Tomiko nodded her head obediently, she turned and followed the children who were following Tsunade. Uzumaki Mito was resting on her chair while shaking her head, and after a while, she asked, why is she so sticky to you? And when you brat was in Konoha, you didn't even take initiative to come here to see me, why is that? And now you're here, you didn't bring anything, what about your comics? Ikeban was speechless hearing her barrage question, and he was also confused about her attitude towards him. Uzumaki Mito is so gentle to other people, but towards him, it was completely opposite. Is it because I am more handsome? He sarcastically thought. At this time, Uzumaki Mito sat up. Ikeban is only 10 years old. So, even though she is just sitting, she is still tall for Ikeban. She stared at Ikeban and said, although I don't know what you are thinking, I always think it is always rude. Ikeban smiled bitterly hearing her word, woman really is scary, especially the older one, he thought. How come? I just want to surprise my mother-in-law. Ikeban took out the manga in his arm, which is the chapter 11 to 15 he painted in the country of Uzumaki, which he compiled and was supposed to be sent to the factory for mass print. It means the original volume. Unfortunately, it was sent to Uzumaki Mito instead of the factory, basically what's gone can never come back. Oh this is the original painting. Uzumaki Mito's eyes lit up, she immediately sat up, and her tone suddenly became gentle, I did not see you wrong, you are a good child. It's really true. The saying of a woman's face changes faster than flipping a book is really true. Otherwise, it is impossible to turn their faces so easily. Ikeban murmured secretly, and then bravely squeezed out a smile, mother-in-law, you remember to print a copy and send it to Mr. Yamano, so that he can print it out and distribute it as soon as possible. Child, mother-in-law will take care of this little thing for you. Uzumaki Mito said gently. The thing about Tomiko. Ikeban hesitated, but still started to talk and asked. Having Tomiko in your household, I am more relieved. By the way, your laziness is the only thing she can't learn. As for Tsuna, both my hands are currently tied, so mother-in-law can't help you. Uzumaki Mito said softly. What do I want you to help? Ikeban wanted to complain, he didn't even speak, so the elderly woman just made up for it. Hey, you have to understand me. As her grandma, you can't make me take the initiative to persuade her to tolerate, right? Uzumaki Mito sighed. Mother-in-law, please stop talking, really. Akaban admits that he really likes Tsunade, and Tsunade seems to have that kind of feeling for himself as well, but he really doesn't have much idea about Tomiko. His feeling for her is like how Big Brother likes his younger sister, maybe he has a little love for beautiful things. However, it seems unnecessary to tell it to Uzumaki Maito. Women who master brain supplement skills are very scary, and they can make up thousands of stories every minute. Cannot afford to offend. Since there is nothing else you can already go back, I'm going to read, so don't disturb my rest. Uzumaki Maito waved away. Thank you, mother-in-law, I will see you another day. Akaban, who heard her, was like a prisoner given a pardon and immediately ran away after saying his goodbye. This terrifying woman is simply a demon in a gentle coat. It's a pity my painting. He sighed inwardly, but thinking about the points he will receive from her, give him a little comfort. 300 points are enough for him to exchange for the lowest rank of Sharingan. But Sharingan has a problem, and that is Akaban is not an Uchiha. Can he use it freely? This is an unknown question, maybe only after redeeming it can he understand his own question. Redeeming Sharingan will change his eyes. Unless he doesn't care about Konoha and intends to leave Konoha, he can't take a chance. Forget it, wait for the next chapter to be published, and see Uchiha's reaction. Akaban shook his head and rejected the thoughts in his mind. In the next chapter, Kakashi will appear with his other eye open, which may test Uchiha's attitude. But another thing to pay attention to is Danza. What is his attitude when he sees those scenes? Everything is unknown. After handing out the third volume, Akaban was seriously distracted, and almost hit Tsunade, who was taking the children back to the courtyard after taking a turn in a corner. Did you finish talking to my grandmother? Tsunade was a little surprised, and the speed of the conversation between the two exceeded her expectations. I didn't talk about anything, I will take Tomiko to the clan first to arrange some things. Akaban said. Okay, we also have to arrange for the children too. Tsunade did not hold him back. During this tricky time, talking about other things can be delayed, and they know that they need first to complete the problem of the children from the Uzumaki family. Akaban nodded and beckoned Uzumaki to Miko. I'm leaving first, come to me if something happens. Little Lolita said tenderly to her other friends. Among the 10 children, she is the most talented and also the calmest of them all. See you in Tomiko. Saying goodbye, little Lolita walked with Akaban. Walking on the street, her eyes scanned on both sides, her hands trembling slightly. Don't be afraid, they dare not do anything to you. Akaban stayed calm and collected. UN. Regarding the Uzumaki bloodline, not only Mist Ninja but also Danza is eyeing them. But with the third Hokage help, Akaban is not worried at all. We are going to the clan patriarch first to solve the identity problem. Your identity from now is my younger sister, so starting today, you may have to temporarily change your surname to Kurama. Akaban explained as they walk. Little Lolita, who heard him, became silent for a while, and after a minute of being silent, she turned and looked at him, and said suspiciously, Father said it was your wife. That old bastard, what did you tell your daughter? Akaban has a kind of impulse to strangle the patriarch of the Uzumaki, and also a set of combo punches, no matter how innocent a man is, if given a wife like the cute little Loli, he will surely commit a crime. Fortunately, his willpower is firm. Facing her watery eyes staring at him, he decisively shook his head and denied what she said. You're still young, so being my little sister is enough, you don't have to listen to your father. UN. She nodded and didn't speak anymore. Akaban put away his underestimated thoughts. He found that the little Lolita is actually very precocious, seemingly ignorant, but her heart is like a clear mirror. Many things will happen in the future, so it is better to be prepared. For example, taking blood. Akaban needs further experimentation on whether the blood of the Uzumaki can really reduce the points required for an exchange. Anbu. Danza, put away your roots. Danza just started planning, and the third Hokage, who just came back, was already on his door. Hiruzen, Uzumaki Tomiko is the most suitable goal for next generation Jinchuriki. She should be in our hands. Danza said seriously. No, she is the future clan leader of the new Uzumaki clan, so there is no room for loss. Sarutabi Hiruzen said while shaking his head. Everyone can become a clan leader, but becoming a Jinchuriki is different. Danza said indifferently, your pedantry and weakness will harm Konoha. I said, stop it. Sarutabi Hiruzen shouted, looking cold and severe. You. Danza clenched his hands, finally took a deep breath. He sat down and coldly snorted. In addition, the land of waves is not suitable now, let Sakumo come back. Sarutabi Hiruzen continued. Hiruzen, you. Danza stood up quickly, his face full of anger. The 5 major villages have just gone through the war. We can no longer take an extra action. Secretly supporting the Uzumaki village is the bottom line. Sarutabi Hiruzen said. Who means it? Me, the third Hokage. Sarutabi Hiruzen being firm is rare, refusing to yield an inch. Just do what you want. Danza clenched his fists and became more determined to engage his route. Is she little Tomiko? Clan leader Kurama Vawen strangely looked at her, and after a few closer glances, he took out a scroll from underneath. Yes, clan leader, but I hope to add her as my younger sister. Akaban said. Younger sister. Kurama Vawen was surprised, and then he took this scroll and said, but this. Akaban took over and glanced at it, and inside were the records of many sealing jutsu of Uzumaki clan, each of which is equipped with a seal and requires a special technique formula. He looked towards the little loli and asked, can you unlock this scroll? Little loli glanced at the clan leader and slightly shook her head. It's okay, anyway, this is something for you. Kurama Vawen smiled reluctantly, and then said after a pause, since you insist, then I will change her to become your younger sister, but in our clan record it's impossible to join. It doesn't matter. Akaban doesn't care about clan record, it doesn't matter to him even if he doesn't on the list. If he is strong enough, he alone can become a clan. But if it is not strong enough, joining the Kurama clan is just like being their pawn. Well, let's settle down first. Kurama Vawen nodded and did not speak anymore. Akaban took the scroll and left, leaving Kurama Vawen and the people in the dark relatively silent. Walking out of the clan leader's house for a long time, Akaban turned his head back, his eyes cold. There was a second person in the room just now. Uzumaki Tomiko whispered. I know. Akaban not only knows that there is a second one, he also knows that the other side is likely to be Anbu, no, to be precise Root. The clan leader has cooperation with Root. He become wary and vigilant about his clan, and put Kurama Vawen on his distrust list. Next, we are going to my house and also you must not go out of the house without me. Akaban said seriously. I know. Little Lolita slightly nodded, and follow Akaban. I hope the third Hokage work to be more efficient. Akaban touched the scroll. Not only the Uzumaki bloodline, but this thing is also very hot in the eyes of other people. Forget it, they won't be able to grab it. If they really want to grab it, they will know that I am not a vegetarian. He walked forward, slowly. Walking to the door of his house, Akaban stopped outside. Compared with the local tyrants of the Uzumaki clan, the door of my house is really not big enough. No wonder those people look for him through the window. Big brother, is this our home? Little Loli looked up and asked. Yes, and your godfather and godmother are inside. Akaban touched her hair and then led her into the house. Kurama Izumu and Kurama Kiko are both inside, but they obviously don't know what's going on. And when they saw Akaban coming in with Uzumaki Tomiko following him, they were stunned for a while. She is. A few seconds later, Kurama Izumu pointed to Tomiko with a puzzled face while asking. My younger sister, you, new daughter. Akaban couldn't help feeling a little ashamed when he said the second half. He himself is not really their real son since his transmigration, and now he brought them another daughter in name. Thinking about it carefully, he really feels ashamed. Daughter. Kurama Kiko was stunned for a moment, then quickly reacted, and said enthusiastically, bring her in first. I'm sure she is tired of coming all the way here. Go take a shower and change clothes. She knew that no matter how many questions she had, she couldn't ask the child in front of her. And there will be opportunities to ask in the future. Thank you. Little Loli express her appreciation. Sharingan, it's going to cause big trouble. Uzumaki Mito sighed. She doesn't understand what Akaban is thinking, knowing what kind of a group Uchiha is, and he writes this kind of setting that obviously brings wrath towards him for defiling their proud eyes. As soon as the third volume is released, Uchiha may not be able to sit still. She is hesitating whether to press down on the manuscript at hand and prevent the third volume from being published. Forget it, I know that Akaban is not a fool, but an intelligent child, so he definitely has his reason for this. Just let him do what he wants. After thinking about it for a long time, Uzumaki Mito finally did not deduct the manuscript but did as Akaban said. She give the original copy to her servant to be sent to the factory for mass printing and let it delivered to Akaban's shop. Akaban didn't know that Uzumaki Mito was entangled in her heart, but he was sure that Uzumaki Mito had read the chapters because of the points that accumulate in his system. 300 points plus the original 100, he now has over 400 points. 400 points, for now, what should I do for this point? Currently, except for Sharingan and semi-immortal body constitution, only water clones, water prison, water dragon bullet jutsu, and great waterfall jutsu can be exchanged. For this version of water dragon bullet is fine, and the ninjutsu hand sign can be done in one hand while he draws for the next jutsu. As for the Great Waterfall Jutsu, it's good, but it's a pity that it costs 500 points. Akaban ticks his tongue regretfully and redeems the water clone and water prison techniques. The water prison technique can be used while advancing, retreating, and defending, which is quite useful for his 5 senses control and his use of painting as a medium. And the painting can be done with one hand while the other hand can completely maintain the water prison technique. After exchanging the water prison technique and the water clone, he then upgraded his physique and exchanged 6 points for it, and it made his physique have a total of 30 points. Hey, it has been evaluated as Chunin. At this time, Akaban found the rank column and reached the level of Chunin. But to be more specific, he didn't feel much change, as if it was just an evaluation on paper. Don't you know what to care about? While he was studying his body for a change, the clone who was drawing next to him couldn't help but say, "What do you mean? Forget it, that's why you deserve to be single." The clone lightly mocked, and then paused and said, "By the way, have you figured out how to deal with the Uchiha?" "Not yet, I'm about to talk to teacher," Akaban said directly. "Heh." With a chuckle, the clone didn't say any more. In order to prevent the Anbu from eavesdropping, further discussions will not proceed. Akaban got up, ready to go to Anbu HQ to meet his teacher. It is reasonable to say that after Tomiko's business is finished, he should visit Danza. But as soon as he leaned on his bed, he didn't want to move at all. He stayed up until the afternoon to hold up a little energy. Going downstairs after resting, he saw how Tomiko gets along well with his parents. Although they are not really her godmother or godmother, addressing them in such a way is enough to make the two elders happy. Akaban slightly smiled and informed them, "I will go out and meet the teacher." "Okay. Big brother, be careful along the way." Just like this, there is a younger sister added to the house. Akaban sighed with emotion and walked slowly to the street towards Danza. Passing by his manga shop in the middle of the road, he saw a lot of people go in and took a manga with them when they came out. Business in Konoha is hot, especially his manga, which is their only entertainment, which slightly comforted his depression from the mission he did in the Uzumaki territory. Not long after he went out, to a relatively secluded location, a silhouette fell in front of him. "Kurama Akaban, Lord Danza is waiting, please follow me." Black-clothed, and mask, it is Anbu. "Yuhai, you have entered Anbu." Akaban greeted weakly. In an instant, the atmosphere became awkward. "Cough cough, you can recognize me with this." Yuhai couldn't help but cough a few times, looking quite depressed. "Your voice needs to be disguised again." Akaban shrugged and made a simple reminder. Being able to enter Anbu for training, the strength of Yuhai is, of course, strong to say the least. Her disguise is actually not a big problem. In the final analysis, her body is too weak, which makes her voice weak. This feature plus her familiar voice, of course, he can guess it all at once. "Okay, come with me." Moonlight Night Dance is not an official Anbu ninja yet, she is now in a semi-assessment state. After taking turns left and left, it didn't take long for the two to come outside Anbu HQ. "Lord Danza is right in front, you can just go in by yourself." Moonlight Night Dance pointed the way, and then slightly nodded, and using a hand seal, she disappeared. Entering along the cave, passing a corner, he saw the sunlight passing through. When he walked out of the cave, he was slightly surprised. The environment in Anbu is relatively harsh, usually in places such as underground, prisons, and caves. However, the verdant hills and limpid water here are surrounded by high mountains, which is really not like Anbu's usual style. "This is..." "You seem to be a little surprised." Danza appeared silently. He is good at longsword, wind style, and assassination, so perfectly hiding his footstep and aura is not difficult for him. "No, it's just I didn't expect Anbu's location to be so beautiful." Akaban laughed embarrassedly. "No, this is not Anbu, this is the route," Danza indifferently said. Akaban, who heard him, almost yelled, but fortunately, he reacted in time, and then asked in surprise, "The route?" "Konoha is a big tree. Under its prosperous appearance, countless underground routes are needed. This is my philosophy, and here is the root test site. Danza is unusually patient and walks inside while talking. Apparently, he has been waiting for Akaban to arrive. Teacher, did you want to say something to me? Akaban felt uneasy, knowing that the more someone knew, the faster they died for something unexpected. The purpose of your coming to me is the content of the third manga, right? Danza took out a book in his hand and asked instead of answering. Akaban glanced at it. This is not the original book. It should be a printed copy that Danza stole from some source. He smiled awkwardly and said, I can't hide anything from the teacher. Why do you want to do it if you know the danger? Danza sneered. No, I just hope that teacher don't intervene to stop it. Akaban shook his head and said. You want to probe Uchiha, and why is that? Because I am curious of what Uchiha's eyes would look like on someone who is not part of their family. To Danza's question, Akaban simply replied, will its ability still exist? Are there any side effects? Will the formidable power be weaker than the original? I want to know all of these. Danza did not answer but walked forward silently. The two walked from outside the cave to inside where the real route was located. At this time Akaban really saw the route training base. The scale is very small at the moment, with only a dozen people at most. It seems that Danza is not doing well right now, and the power he holds is far less powerful than that of his future self. Akaban secretly thought in his heart. At this time, Danza broke the silence and continued, your idea is dangerous. So I want to probe, anyway, I just think about it, but I didn't really act. Akaban said. For Uchiha, you have insulted their bloodline. Danza sneered softly, they are extremely emotional and can definitely do this kind of thing. He doesn't like the Uchiha clan, and even has several points of disgust towards them. This aversion is created not only by himself, but most of it comes from the second Hokage Senju Tobirama, who is also wary of the Uchiha clan, who is also Danza's teacher. Extreme emotions, it seems that teacher knows what their secrets are. You can do what you want. If Uchiha's executive wants to mess around, I will help you. Danza did not answer his question, but made a final word and ended the topic. Then he continued, then let's talk about the compensation for it. If teacher needs my service, it is my honor. Although he didn't know what Danza wanted from him, at least cooperation was reached. And that's what he wanted from the start. The routes were established not long ago, and we have implemented harsh training and assessment, and the loss rate for each assessment is very heavy. Danza slowly said, in order to reduce some losses, I need your genjutsu. My 5 senses manipulation. Yes, let them experience life and death repeatedly, that way, they can experience life and death battle while also without causing them any harm. Danza nodded. No problem, it's very simple. Akaban agreed, but in his heart, he gradually became confused. How did Danza know? Death Mirage Jutsu integrates 5 senses control, which is itself a failure when his clan member tried to combine it. There are very few people in the Kurama clan who know it, let alone outsiders, and people who know that Akaban has studied and practiced it can be counted on one's fingers. As soon as he thought about it, a person's name came to his mind. Orochimaru and Danza are working together. Akaban thought for a while and quickly rejected it. At this time, Orochimaru has no capital to cooperate with Danza at all. Perhaps it is just Danza's investment and small actions. Then a question is here. Did Danza reveal this clue intentionally or unintentionally? This is the reason why he doesn't like being with Danza. This old fox is full of dangerous thoughts and he has to think about everything with him for a long time. Akaban was troubled for a while and simply didn't bother to think about it. I don't need to worry too much about Orochimaru for the time being. Now the first thing to do is to complete Danza's proposal. He followed Danza into this simple courtyard, and then heard the sound of interlacing ironwork. Kunai, shurikens clash, and also Ninja's voice. Although he didn't see yet what they are using, he just knew what weapon it was all at once from just hearing it. Do you need a mask? Danza indifferently asked. 5 senses, does Konoha have a second one? Akaban shook his head in denial. What's the use of wearing a mask if all the ninja in the Konoha knew that only he can use the jutsu in his teens? Then everyone, gather. Danza walked in with his sword and followed by Akaban beside him. The audience was silent for an instant, and everyone gathered in front of him in the blink of an eye. This is the route. Akaban glanced away. Although he could not tell from the appearance, he could still tell the origin of these people from the subtle differences in their clothes. 2 from Aburam clan members, 1 from Hyuga clan, and a big figure should be from a Kimichi clan. There are still more from different clan, but due to the darkness of the place he can't see the others that were on the back. You should all know him, and he was here to cast genjutsu on all of you. Danza said, then the corner of his mouth raised, and smiled coldly. Kurama clan's genjutsu, you should understand what it entails. You will experience the most fearful death in your heart. So whoever can't bear with it, can withdraw now. The audience is silent and no one comes forward. Akaban pursed his mouth slightly. He didn't know how Danza brainwashed them. Maybe he used the rhetoric of root, but he was very clear about one thing: no harm in the illusion did not mean that they could not be killed. Well, since no one wants to quit, please give up resistance. He continued. Akaban stood there, adjusted his state, and mobilized the chakra within his body. When everyone sat down, he made a seal with both hands, and he completed the seal in the blink of an eye. Death Mirage Jutsu. After a chakra fluctuation, everyone stopped moving. Teacher, Death Mirage Jutsu can be fatal if used multiple times. Akaban reminded. Death Mirage Jutsu can see the most fearful things in people's hearts. For those who are not determined to face their fears, thousands of times are very likely to die in their spirits, which means they will become vegetative people. I know, but this is the best way to reduce losses. Danza was silent for a moment, then said softly, the root is never bright in the first place. Well, what the teacher said is right, and it makes sense. Akaban casually said. He doesn't agree with Danza's philosophy, but he also doesn't like Sarutobi Hiruzen's belief. Moreover, here is the root, Danza's territory, so he can only nod his head lightly. Oh, what a little fox! Danza sneered, but he was secretly happy. The third Hokage wanted to take the 2 most genius students in this generation and bring the 2 into the palm of his hand. Which is also what Danza wanted for Akaban and Orochimaru, but what they didn't realize was that neither of them could accept their philosophy. In the end, it was nothing but just a futile attempt. As time passed, the genjutsu gradually reached its most terrifying stage, and screams resounded throughout the valley. 1 second, 2 seconds, everyone woke up one after another, all covered in a cold sweat. Take a break. Danza indifferently said. Lord, we can still. My order is to rest. Danza repeated it severely. Yes. Thank you, my lord. The entire group sat, panting, catching their breath. Akaban feels a little distress. It seems Danza is really knowledgeable about how to obtain his subordinates' trust while torturing them. What a scary old man. If he keeps using genjutsu in them, they will only become numb to it and collapse after repeated use. Now it seems to let them rest. Although it looks like he let them rest for now, but because of the real pain caused by the manipulation of their five senses, their memories and fears are becoming deeper during their rest period, and these fears will deepen the effect of the next operation. For example, everyone now feels that the pain of their death is real now that they are resting. And they looked in Akaban's direction with a little fear in their eyes. It's miserable. After a sigh of emotion, he cleared up his mood and wondered how to use the technique to maximize the effect. Well, after using genjutsu once, he can think of a plan to maximize it. Akaban thought for a while and made a decision. So a few minutes later, he used genjutsu a second time, and after a few minutes, everyone woke up. Take a rest. Danza spits out 2 words. Akaban also sat down. He looked at the Anbu members that were perspiring from their experience and said, "Many of you are elites who have been to the battlefield and killed people. Death itself is not fearful. I hope everyone understands what root means." A bunch of people looked over, some who listened carefully, some questioned and secretly mocked. Konoha is a big tree. What will happen to the big tree without roots? You can imagine that you are the roots, and your family is the big tree or the fruit of the tree, the perching bird. When the roots no longer exist, Konoha will be destroyed. What kind of scene will it be? Akaban stops his word, and his hands suddenly make another hand seal for death mirage jutsu. All of them who were listening to Akaban words suddenly imagined what he was saying. That made all of them enter the illusion with those imaginations in their mind. Before they may have seen their own death in battle, from mission failure and also suicide after getting caught by the enemies, or all the fears they have in their hearts. But this time, the moment they enter the illusion, what they see was not their death, instead it's the death of their family, loved one, and everyone around them that they treasure. No, no. I will kill you, I kill you. Terrified, angry, sad, many voices and emotions radiate from their words. Danza, who was silent while watching from the sidelines, suddenly laughed out loud. After a long time, he looked at Akaban and said, "Are you interested in joining the roots?" What he said about joining, of course, is not to become an ordinary member, but to imply the position of the successor. However, "Teacher, I am not suitable for the position, you should find another brilliant one." Akaban waved his hands again and again. Such words are enough to fool others, but you can't carry it in. Is it a place where people stay? Danza was not surprised, but still regretful. Afterward, he smiled blankly and said, "It doesn't matter, who knows the future?" Akaban glanced at him. He was a little surprised. Seeing that he was moved, Akaban couldn't help but think, could it be that his remarks fooled Danza? No way. As he was thinking about what Danza said, his eyes inspected the group randomly only to notice that something was wrong with one of them. Looking at the complexion of the Anbu made him shout, "Not good." "Teacher, rouse the leftmost person in the second row." Danza immediately moved and suddenly appeared next to Anbu. He patted the head and used the technique of releasing genjutsu to instantly relieve him from illusory domain. However, after he woke up, he kept yelling, and his shadow expanded wildly, trying to control everything around him. Bang! After a hand knife, Danza picks the unconscious body. He just fell into the depths of the illusions, so dangerous. Akaban took a deep breath, a little frightened. Smart people always think more. Danza didn't think too much about it, but still, he was a little disappointed and said, "Remove the genjutsu and let them rest." Yes. Akaban instantly cancelled the genjutsu he cast on all of them. There was no accident like from earlier. Everyone had come out of the illusions successfully, but their emotions were a little bit wrong. However, most of them are no longer crazy after seeing Danza and Akaban, only a few of them almost went berserk like the one from the Nara family. The training is over today, everyone rests. After the training using his genjutsu, now Akaban is needed to do it for at least 3 more days. Although it pays a certain price, but since it's Danza that becomes his shield, it is worth his efforts for being their trainer. As long as the manga is in place, he can start selling immediately, but this may take 2 or 3 days. In 2 days, Akaban has not been out of Konoha. On the other hand, he has to be with his family, and from time to time he goes out to help Danza as per their agreement. On the other hand, from the encounter with Zabuza to the success of the bridge construction, it is a long series of consecutive plots. To maintain popularity, he needs to hurry up and update these completely in the fastest time. So, on the 3rd day, Akaban just got up, but Kurama Yunlane is already waiting underneath. Akaban-sama, Yamano-san has arrived. Understood, you can go ahead of me. Akaban rubbed his temple to relieve mental fatigue from working his clone too much. After washing, he hurried to the manga shop. When we arrived at the shop, the factory gang had already stacked books on the shelf. Akaban-sama, the income of this period of time. Just give the money directly to my parents, you take this. Akaban handed over all the 4th volume that was just completed yesterday to Yamano Izumi. The 4th volume. Yamano opened it due to his curiosity for the next chapter since he is also a fan of the book and read it. It just happened to be connected to the plot where Zabuza was killed where it was cut on the previous chapter. He couldn't help but feel a little surprised. This time it was completed so quickly, it was incredible. Yes, also help me print as many as you can in these 3 days, and if your cooperative caravan is willing to also help me sell it, I can give them 20 to 30% of the revenues. Akaban said. The caravan has some. Okay, I ask when the time comes. Yamano nodded and accepted the proposals immediately. Nobody hates free money, right? Their main business is weapons, and their caravans are naturally not ordinary. Some of these caravans come from Land of Fire, and some come from the surrounding countries that Land of Fire has met. Then sorry for the trouble, Yamano-san. Since I am in such a hurry, I will go back to the factory immediately and let them continue to work. Yamano nodded, calling a bunch of guys to leave. Akaban sat down in front of the shop door, brought out his sketchpad and paintbrush, and planned to do what he did in the Uzumaki village and started painting in the street. It didn't take long. Yo, Akaban is back. Looking up, this time it was not Narashimyu, but Inuzuka Ishii. Inuzuka Ishii is their classmate who graduated at the same time and had a bad relationship with Akaban, but they all knew Sakumo, so they became indirectly familiar with each other. I came back 3 days ago, I am going to rest for a while. Akaban glanced at him and replied casually. For the Inuzuka clan, their biggest hobby is keeping dogs, and the most important thing to them is still keeping dogs. So manga. They are not interested. Inuzuka she glanced at the manga shop, his face hesitant. As Akaban thought, he hadn't bought it but had seen the content in one of his friends that it made him curious. He just passed by, but he can't help but struggle for what to do. Is the third volume on the shelves today? His eyes were sharp like a dog, and after a few glances, he immediately saw that the cover was different from before. New volume. Yes, Yamano-san came over as soon as he primed it. Akaban replied smoothly. Inuzuka Ishi took his dog, he walked inside the shop and viewed the new volume on the shelf. Seeing Naruto's performance, he couldn't help but laugh. What an idiot, but his fast restorative ability is scary. Land of Waves __ speaking of which, I haven't been out of Hidden Leaf Village. Inuzuka Ishi took out his wallet and dropped 100 banknotes and sat in front of the stall, reading the manga while watching the live posters drawn by Akaban. It's dangerous outside the village, so treat the village well. Akaban sighed. These people have pursuits and want to go out. But only he wants to come back and stay in the village. And if possible he wants to stay at his house, but he knows that it's impossible. Danger. Don't you think it, this kind of opponent? Inuzuka Ishi's words suddenly stopped when he saw a blade flying on the manga. Zabuza appeared. A man holding a great sword with a scary-looking face appeared in a whole-page panel. Just looking at the painting makes him feel very scared. He took a deep breath, swallowed back half of the words he hadn't finished, and followed the story just to see Kakashi's hand on his headband. What's under the headband? Inuzuka Ishi couldn't help asking. Turn it over and you will see it. Akaban said after he finished a poster. He picked up another blank paper and quickly painted for the second one. Originally, after drawing one illustration, he should be lazing, but since Inuzuka Ishi became his fan, he changed his evil spirits, so he decided to give it away. As for the content, Inuzuka Kibara and Akamaru are good. He was about to draw, but suddenly. Yes, it's Sharingan. Inuzuka Ishi yelled, his face was full of horror. Sharingan, this is what Uchiha clan values the most. Since the establishment of the village, they have maintained inter-ethnic marriages and did not let their blood flow out to other clans. But now, in Akaban's painting, he painted someone from another clan using their Sharingan. He was surprised but more worried. Even if it's just a manga, as far as Uchiha clan's style is concerned, I am afraid it will be a big blow for their pride. You don't have to make a fuss about it, just calm down. Akaban glanced at him and said, and when he was about to continue to paint. Inuzuka Ishi stood up and said solemnly, Akaban, since there are not many people buying it now, please take it back and change it, otherwise. Don't worry about it, it's not a problem. Akaban is helpless. Although he knows what he said is for his own good, but he has Danza as his shield, so what's there to fear? I'm leaving first. Inuzuka Ishi put away the book and hurriedly led the dog away. Sigh. Akaban stayed for a while, then sighed softly. Even if you are afraid of being affected, you don't have to rush like that. People from Uchiha can't just drop from the sky, you know. He sat there, thought for a moment, but was relieved. The Uchiha clan is indeed a tyrant in the village now, and seeing Inuzuka Ishi's behavior, he is not surprised. Why are that guys walking so fast? Akaban was about to draw the next illustration, but suddenly heard a voice from behind. Turning around he saw, Jiraiya. He didn't notice him at all. His exceptional use of earth style and hidden aura has improved a lot. It's nothing, he bought a manga and left. Akaban said he doesn't intend to complain to others. Hey, Volume 3. Give me one too. Jiraiya got out, took a manga from the shelf, and dropped another 100 tiles. Taking the manga, he immediately disappeared using Earth style. After a while, he reappeared again and laughed embarrassingly and asked, "That's right, I got interrupted and forgot what I want to ask. Akaban, what do you think about my improvement using my Earth Jutsu?" "Great progress." "Sure enough." Akaban knew that this guy came here to show off. He, I have something to do, goodbye." Jiraiya laughed happily, then waved his hand, probably planning to look for Orochimaru for revenge. After that, he sat there for a while thinking. "Yunlane, our shop, has the business been so intermittent?" Akaban was a bit speechless. He thought the business was very hot, but in fact, everyone came here one after another. During the day, they are busy with missions and work, and some people don't know that our goods have arrived, so there will be fewer people. There will be a peak in the evening. Kurama Yunlane explained. "It seems that we have to set a fixed opening time and put an advertisement in front of the shop." Akaban thought. When the second volume was released, he was in Hidden Uzumaki village. He didn't know what happened. Now it seems that many people don't know that manga has been updated. But in the evening, it is estimated that a large number of people will buy the manga. At the latest tomorrow, Uchiha will have a corresponding action. No hurry, just one more day of buffering. And drama will surely happen. Patriarch, someone put this thing outside the door. What? Uchiha Yuan frowned. As a part of an Uchiha, being flustered over a little thing can't be tolerated. Patriarch, please take a look. The guard hurriedly rushed inside with the use of a body flicker where Uchiha Yuan was waiting and said. After entering, he kneeled in front of Uchiha Yuan and took out a book that had a black cloth covering it, and handed it to Yuan with his head down, not daring to look at the patriarch of the Uchiha family. Spreading out the black cloth, what was inside was a book full of pictures. On the cover, a man wears a mask, and his headband obliquely covers his left eye, looking handsome and cold. What does the comics of the Kurama brat have to do with us? Uchiha Yuan didn't understand what this guard was flustered about. Taking the comic in his hand, he turns over a few pages out of curiosity because it's his first time seeing a unique book like what's on his hand. Because of this, his curiosity became interested and the way he flipped the pages became fast due to the good story it entails. But not long after, at page 12 what he saw enraged him. In an instant, Chakra's aura burst into action. Uchiha Yuan was so angry that the sides of his nose trembled slightly. "Yuan, what's the matter?" His wife sensed his aura that made her come out and asked suspiciously. "Nothing, someone from the tribe delivered something to me that made me lose my cool." Uchiha Yuan replied. However, the moment he looked at the one who gave him the book he was taken aback. Looking around again, he found out that the guard was gone. It disappeared. He was taken aback for a moment and then looked towards the thing on his hand. A shadow clone, and just to deliver this book to me, what is his purpose? Uchiha Yuan's brain is running fast. And he was already thinking about the objective of the one who sent the book to his door. It is just a picture album, and the story itself is only fiction. But due to this book, it is necessary to open a clan meeting because of it, so as to avoid fuss about it. However, this mask ninja seems to be called Hatake Kakashi, which is clearly not from his clan. An outsider, but own a Sharingan. Comic, Kurama Akaban, Danza. What? He thought about it one by one, and suddenly his complexion changed. Uchiha's foothold in Konoha is not that great due to Madara's betrayal, but due to their Sharingan, their status in the village is still strong. But if an outsider can also use Sharingan, can Uchiha clan still retain their transcendent status? Hypnosis, replication, and genjutsu. The functions of Sharingan are perfectly presented in Kakashi. Although it is only a manga, once everyone in Konoha has this idea, then it will become destructive for the Uchiha clan. Patriarch, there is a little kid who dared to tarnish our clan. At this moment, someone hurriedly ran to the courtyard with his loud voice. Uchiha Yuan looked up and saw Uchiha Ryo's father Uchiha Ensho. After entering the courtyard and arriving in front of Uchiha Yuan, Uchiha Ensho was stunned, and that made his words stop due to the comic book Uchiha Yuan was holding. Touching his head, he asked, "You already inferred the news, Patriarch?" "Yes, someone who I don't know made a special trip on my door to send it here," Uchiha Yuan said calmly and continued, "Go ahead and call an emergency meeting." "Yes." Uchiha Ensho leaves immediately after hearing Uchiha Yuan's words, since he knows how dire the situation is. It didn't take long for all the elders and important officials in Uchiha to gather. Because of the hostility to the Kurama clan, people in Uchiha who have been in contact with manga can be counted on one's hand. These elder and jonin that were the majority of the official have never read it at all. Uchiha Yuan placed a few pages that had just been printed on the meeting table and then sat on the main seat without speaking. After a while, "This kid is too presumptuous, he dared to arrange our Uchiha like this in his story. Patriarch, this is an insult. The Hokage must punish this kid severely, otherwise our clans will lose their faces." For a while, the meeting room was very noisy. While Uchiha Yuan closed his eyes and said nothing. He just listened to their complaints until they finished. Gradually, many people calmed down. At this moment, Uchiha Ensho hesitated and asked, "Patriarch, is this really just a story speculated by the kid? What do you think? It doesn't feel like speculation. That little demon seems to be Danza's discipline." Uchiha Yuan, hearing his reply, nodded his head in agreement and stood up. After looking at them to an extent, everyone quickly calmed down. Then Uchiha Yuan continued, "This is probably a lure and also a warning from Danza. Commoners are stupid. Yes, but if the majority of people feel that Uchiha can be replaced, then even if Danza did it, it will not cause much commotion or opposition." An elder who has never spoken at this time till the beginning nodded his head in understanding. Uchiha was given the privilege of being the gods, but he is also separated from the Konoha public guard, of course, because they look down on the commoner and disdain them. If Danza threatens us with this, we can join forces with Hyuga. After thinking for a while, an elder came up with a plan to also rely on the Hyuga clan, since they also relied on their dojutsu like the Uchiha. So if the Uchiha face danger due to their eyes, the Hyuga clan will also be the same as the elder, though. "Elder, Hyuga clan will not join forces." Uchiha Yuan sighed angrily and said, "They have a branch house, and also Konoha will not act against the Hyuga clan as long as they don't rebel against the village. Instead, the Konoha will choose to protect the power of the Hyuga clan instead of their Uchiha clan due to their nature. In that case, why should Hyuga clan worry?" However, among the people present, there are too many people who hate Konoha and Danza. He can only rest assured and can't say anything about this remark. "Ensho, you come forward to teach that little kid, to probe Danza's reaction," an elder said. Yes, we must teach him a lesson." First to probe, then wait at the other side for the result. It's not too late to plan for our next step. His decision was approved by many, and when they thought about it for a while, they felt that there was no loss in doing so. At most, they were just going to be scolded, so all of them nodded their heads in agreement. Uchiha Yuan looked around the room for a bit, seeing their expression made him sigh and said, "Just do it." The proud and arrogant Uchiha. However, the distorted clan hierarchy system after Madara's rebellion is destined to not be dictated by the patriarch alone. It would be nice if you didn't die. If his younger brother did not die, maybe things would be completely different. The next day, Akaban was about to lie down for a while, but a rustling sound appeared in the window early in the morning, and a silhouette jumped in from the window. My God! He was a little confused at first, but immediately after opening his eyes, he immediately sat up and covered his body with a quilt. HMP. What's there to hide when we are so familiar with each other? There is no need to make a fuss about nothing. Tsunade glanced at the bed, and a smile appeared on her face and then waved her hand feebly as a greeting. Why did you come here in the morning? Also, my house has a door, do you understand? Akaban was a little angry. The morning is a good time to sleep for him, but now that she entered his room, his sleep was definitely gone now. HMPH, I just saw your latest work. You are too bold to put Uchiha clan's eyes in your comics, really not afraid of poking the beehive of the bees. Tsunade said old-fashionably. Well, it's just a manga. Also, can you please go out for a moment? I want to change my clothes. Akaban waved his hand and said weakly. It doesn't matter, we are comrades who have entrusted life and death for each other. Tsunade said with a smile. Forget it, I can't do anything with you. He sighed, grabbed the clothes, and started to change. I have to go to the manga shop later, do you have anything else to say? It's okay, but I'm curious, do you know what will happen if you do this? Yes, and then? Within a few seconds, Akaban has been dressed. He doesn't care about their petty revenge with a shield on his back, and remembering the time, the Uchiha's members should get the news now and start scheming against him. Knowing that Uchihas will come to trouble you, do you still want to go out? Yes, I am also not to be trifled with. Akaban said calmly. Although he won't know what Danza will do, since he agreed, he will definitely warn Uchiha's people. And if Uchiha only comes with only 1 or 2 people at a time, it means Uchiha admits that it will be just a small fight and no risk will come to his life. That's what Akaban thought. In that case, I want to watch the excitement too. Tsunade said excitedly, completely unaware of the indication Akaban's giving. A few seconds later, Akaban lowered his head in disappointment. It seems he can't continue his rest for the day. I want to wash, can you wait outside? I'll wait for you outside. She didn't dare to watch him bathing, so she quickly nodded her head and replied with a meek voice. Then she opened the window, and walked out quietly. Ari, the habit of climbing my window seems to have started with her. Akaban sighed feebly, he then stood up and sluggishly walked to his bathroom to wash. After a long time, he finished washing and left the clan manor after saying goodbye to his parents and little Loli and went to the manga shop with Tsuna on his side. When he arrived with Tsunade, several people who bought books left the manga shop one after another. But apparently, Uchiha clan's people have not come yet. If it weren't for Tsunade, he could sleep a little longer, but alas. You're complaining about something, aren't you? Before Tsuna finished her complaint, a sudden voice was heard coming from their rear that interrupted her. "Kurama Akaban, you finally came." Ha! Looking at his back, Akaban saw a man wearing fan-shaped clothes walking slowly in his direction. Looking at the dress, he knows that it's a Chunin, but what surprised him is the face of the man that he was familiar with. He thought about it for a moment, and suddenly remembered why he was so familiar. "Are you the father of the guy named, what's it again?" Thinking about it for a long time, he still can't remember the name, so he asked Tsuna on his side. "Ryo is my son." But Uchiha Ensho was the one who retorted indifferently and said, "If you think this will irritate me, then you are wrong. Don't get me wrong, I'm just a peace-loving cartoonist." Akaban smiled and waved. "Peace-loving?" Tsuna has a speechless complexion showing at her face hearing Akaban's reply. If she still believes in this kind of nonsense, she is really stupid as Jiraiya. "Heh. I am here this time, hoping that you will revise the plot of the latest chapters. We Uchiha can't be insulted by everyone." Uchiha Ensho said with an arrogant voice. "Insult? Uncle, it's just a drawing drawn by a child." Akaban said with a smile. "Then I have to teach you a lesson." Uchiha Ensho's eyes changed instantly. "Is it just painting?" With an exchange of a few words, Uchiha Ensho saw how confident this kid is, so obviously there is someone supporting him from the dark. So he thought Danza plans to make the kid draw the comics, then lure them, the Uchiha clan, using the kid's death if he finished him, so that Danza can use this to banish the Uchiha clan from the village. Thinking about it made his killing intent surged. "Akaban, something is wrong." Tsuna's face gradually changed. "Even if you kill me, the manga will not stop, let alone changing the plot." Akaban squinted his eyes and said, "Try it first, then I will know." After commenting on what Akaban said, Uchiha Ensho's eyes turned red with a tomo revolving on them. He looked at Akaban with his bloody eye and said, "Let me show you the power of these eyes." "Oh, really? Do you think I talk too much just to say nonsense?" Akaban sneered. Tsuna, hearing Akaban's retort, felt a bit strange since she didn't see Akaban do anything aside from talking. But when she looked again at Uchiha Ensho, she found him standing there motionless, which surprised the heck out of her. "Genjutsu? Since when?" When Tsuna was full of surprise, she suddenly saw a silhouette inside the shop that looked like Akaban from the corner of her eyes. "You are so insidious." She couldn't help but complain, "Isn't this a sneak attack? He wants my life, so my sneak attack is not too much, right? Damn. 3 tomo. If I let him attack me, it's over." Akaban's eyes become cold witnessing how this guy really plans to kill him. "Since you want to kill me, then don't blame me for killing you too." Thinking about it, Akaban's eyes become extremely cold and ready to kill the man inside his illusion, but before he can implement it, he stops his movement. "Let's stop it here, Kurama Akaban." The familiar voice was unprecedentedly indifferent, and the silhouette that slowly appeared stopped Akaban's thoughts. The third Hokage, Sarutabi Hiruzen. Seeing the third Hokage, Akaban released his shadow clone that was hiding in the comic shop since it depleted his chakras. Bang! The moment his shadow clone disappeared, a scream was heard next, coming from Uchiha Ensho, who broke the illusion with his hand covering his eyes, and a drop of blood flowed and could be seen coming from the corner of his eyes. It's a shame to be hit by the genjutsu of a little kid. However, the strength and scheming of this kid are beyond imagination, just like Danza. forcibly breaking through from my illusory domain, not bad. Akaban chuckled lightly. Uchiha Ensho's spiritual energy is very strong. If it weren't for a sneak attack, he would definitely suffer. But the other side is Chunin and an Uchiha, who claims to crack all genjutsu, but he definitely embarrassed Uchiha Ensho. Little kid, I won't fug. Uchiha Ensho, you are not in charge of guard work, so what are you doing here? Sarutabi Hiruzen angrily scolded Ensho. Lord Hokage. Uchiha Ensho discovered at this time that Sarutabi Hiruzen is here. He looks pale when he sees the Hokage appear. Whether it is to probe or really want to perish together, he can't proceed. Akaban, you come to my office. *bam. Although the third Hokage's clone disappeared, this fight will obviously not go on. Kurama Akaban, you better st. Uchiha Ensho, who wanted to stop Akaba, suddenly stopped what he was about to say. Remembering what he became earlier, and thinking about the battle, he asked himself. If Akaban wanted to kill him earlier, could he have survived? Being forced into this state by a kid, what can he say? Thinking of this, he held back the second half of the sentence and left silently. Seeing the other side leaving, Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief and secretly said worriedly, "This is the first time I saw teacher so angry. Since there will be no major event, let me go first." Akaban replied. If they said that the third Hokage did not observe him secretly, then he wouldn't believe it. With the wisdom of the third Hokage, as long as he knew the plot and combined the actions of Danza and Akaban, it's easy to guess what will happen next. Therefore, the final result is still under control, not too far from expectations. He just didn't know why the third Hokage called himself over, and what he wanted to say to him. Akaban, who was thinking from the bottom of his heart, had already reached the Hokage building without him realizing it, and when he looked up, he saw a pair of eyes looking down from upstairs. Shimura Danza. He paused for a second or two and waited for Danza to turn around before continuing walking into the building. When he reached the second floor, he happened to meet Danza. "Don't forget to come to class, you still have training today." Danza left a sentence, then slowly went downstairs and left. Hearing these words, Akaban felt more relieved. It seems that Uncle Danza carried the pot on his back as agreed. Dong 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 tilde tilde. "Come in." Knocking gently on the door, and after getting a reply, Akaban pushes in and bows slightly to Sarutabi Hiruzen. "Kurama Akaban, why do you do this?" Sarutabi Hiruzen asked coldly. "Lord Hokage, Uchiha is too arrogant and has forgotten Konoha and the commoner. They have almost become another ninja village inside the Konoha." In front of third Kage, Akaban dare not say anything perfunctory. "Even so, you shouldn't do this. You have destroyed the peace of the village." Sarutabi Hiruzen stood up abruptly and said angrily. Akaban did not speak. Danza and the third Hokage must have a dispute, so not answering this time is the best answer. "You must stop the manga, this plot needs to be modified," Sarutabi Hiruzen said after a moment of silence. "Lord Hokage, the seeds of suspicion have been planted. Besides, I didn't even paint anything, except for the Sharingan that appeared on someone that's not from their blood. Is that not enough? Or do you think the force of Uchiha will turn back?" After a quarrel, the third Hokage sat in his chair with disappointment in his eyes. Akaban was silent. The third Hokage had good intentions, but it's a pity that the Uchiha clan didn't appreciate it, and they still chose to do so in the end. After a long silence, the third Hokage took out his pipe and said sadly, "It's my fault. I shouldn't accept Danza's term to make you his student. Maybe you will be different. Condition. Akaban said lightly and vaguely understood what he meant. It's nothing. You can go back now. Sarutabi closed his eyes after saying it and didn't plan to say more. Yes. Patriarch, the third Hokage has stepped in. Uchiha Ensho said to Uchiha Yuan after he came back. But he didn't mention how Akaban schemed against him without him noticing it, almost experiencing life and death. That's good. Hearing what Ensho said, Uchiha Yuan sighed in relief and relaxed a little. After a minute of thinking he continued, if the third Hokage steps in, it means that Konoha didn't have any extreme notions about our clan. And all of this is just Danza's plan. But we can't just let it go, otherwise our clan's prestige will be swept away. Uchiha Ensho said solemnly. Of course, we have to threaten Kurama clan and contact the third Hokage at the same time, suggesting that he will come forward to resolve the conflict. As long as the little kid is not stupid, he will take a step back for it. Uchiha Yuan said. But Danza's schemes are intolerable for our clan if one day even the Hokage. Uchiha Ensho was indignant, but Uchiha Yuan raised his hand and stopped him from continuing. Neither of them spoke. After a moment of silence, Uchiha Yuan continued, if we leave the Konoha, where can we go? Do you think the other villages will just watch us to build our own home if we leave here? There is no second Uchiha Madara. So if we leave the Konoha, we will be the next Uzumaki clan. Targeted by all the ninja nations. Uchiha Yuan said indifferently. Uzumaki clan. The third Hokage brought back 10 children from the land of Uzumaki. I asked our people to investigate it. And what they learned was that the Uzumaki clan is currently facing annihilation. He sighed when he said this, and his tone became heavy. What? Annihilation of their entire clan? What's going on? Uchiha Ensho was shocked, to say the least, when hearing it. The relationship between Uzumaki clan and Konoha is excellent, and their strength is equally strong. So it was hard to believe that such a strong clan will face such a catastrophe. However, when Yuan talked about the information he had learned, he understood why it ensued. A village full of treasures will become the envy of others. It's not a bad thing to hoard a treasure, but having too many treasures is definitely not good. Since they will become the center of envy, hatred, and also greed that can give rise to slaughter. So no matter whether the manga appears or not, the rest of the ninja nations still yearn to get their Sharingans. It has nothing to do with the manga why they want it. Uchiha Yuan sighed, and his mind was even more confused. But at this time, Uchiha Yuan suddenly smiled and said, in fact, this matter can turn into a good thing. If we asked Kurama Akaban to write the harm and defect of Sharingan transplant seriously, then it can't be disastrous for us. Does this mean, let everyone understand that the cost of obtaining Sharingan is far greater than the benefit it will give? Uchiha Ensho looked thoughtful when he muttered it. Yes, Bakugan branch house has a caged bird. So other people can't steal their eyes. Uchiha Yuan couldn't help laughing when he thought about it and continued. If we can tell others our own bird cage through this way, then we can make our own propaganda. Manga can be a tool for your own benefit if you use it well. I want to meet that little kid and Danza. Leaving the Hokage building, Akaban is still recalling the conversation just now. There is no doubt that the third Hokage has a deep enough understanding of the Sharingan if he rattled about it. from how the third Hokage didn't persuade anymore about changing the plot of the book, a few days at most, there will be a concession for it for sure. Akaban thought after carefully thinking what the Hokage would do. So knowing what would happen, Akaban didn't dwell on it too much and walked the street boldly. Starting from the second Hokage, the next generation Hokage has suppressed Uchiha in various ways, and after the attack of Nine Tails in the future, they have begun to destroy Uchiha. It can be said that the Hokage generation has never trusted them after Madara Rebellion, and Akaban just follows the tide. Of course, standing on the cusp of the storm always requires a certain price. And the advantage of this for him is that the Uchiha clan will also pay attention to manga and he can harvest a lot of points from them. On the other hand, Danza's willingness to hold back the pot means that he is also on the move. If Danza embarks on his research like how his future copy did, Akaban can also obtain a Sharingan from him in the future. But, it's not enough. Akaban's mind turned sharply, thinking about another question. The next plot of the story is about the information about the Sharingan, so, should I postpone it or modify it? What a hard question. When an outsider wrote about the Sharingan, Uchiha's clan sent someone to teach them a lesson even thinking of killing. So writing about Sharingan information that only their higher-ups are supposed to know, I'm afraid it can definitely trigger all of the Uchiha. Moving their whole force to dispose of him is definitely possible. While thinking about the future problem, he walked towards where the roots are located. However, it didn't take long for someone to disturb him. Lord Danza has an order, the training is cancelled today, please go to this position. The ninja of the root team. After Akaban took the scroll from its hand, the root member quickly disappeared. Opening the scroll, a string of code words is displayed on it, and deciphering the code, what comes out were Forest of Death and the 30-second practice ground. What did it mean? Is it possible that Danza is upset, and plans to train him for revenge? Thinking about Danza's character, it's unthinkable, so the only thing is, the Uchiha. Akaban took a deep breath. If Danza can temporarily cancel the training and agree to be in a remote location like Forest of Death, this can only be the reason. But in case it is a trap. After pondering about it carefully, Akaban creates a shadow clone. Thanks for your hard work, take a trip for me. Forest of Death, there are dangers everywhere, let alone Uchiha clan's unclear attitude right now. Just going there recklessly is like gifting your head for your enemy. If there is no danger, a shadow clone is enough to do it for him. UN. The clone responded and quickly set off to the 30-second practice ground of Forest of Death. Forest of Death, Danza stood in the middle, waiting quietly. Lord Danza, long time no see. Uchiha Yuan appeared, what about the little kid? Not here yet. Danza said lightly, what do you want to talk about when you ask me to come here? What else can I talk about? Of course, it's that little kid's work, we Uchihas are very interested about it. Uchiha Yuan said with a slight smile. Danza slightly frowned, not understanding what he means. It's nothing, wait until the little kid arrives. He leaned against the tree waiting. Not long after, the two looked in the same direction at the same time. Here he comes. Shusha tilde tilde tilde. The sound of leaves swaying was heard, and the next second a silhouette quickly jumped from the tree and fell between the two. Two lords, I am late. Akaban glanced at the two of them, although his face was indifferent, but in his heart, he was a little confused. It is surprising that an Uchiha directly met Danza instead of looking for the third Hokage with their hatred for each other. It's okay, let me introduce myself first. My name is Uchiha Yuan. I am the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. Yuan smiled slightly and didn't take any excessive movement. Hello, I am Kurama Akaban. Even if it is an opponent, for the time being, the courtesy is still the same. Akaban bowed slightly. He paid attention to Danza's expression. Obviously, this teacher of his also got the news of the meeting abruptly. Since everyone is here, then I'll talk about why I call you here. Kurama Akaban, I hope you will explain in your manga the price of an outsider getting the Sharingan. Uchiha Yuan said. Listening to what Uchiha Yuan said, Akaban thought to himself, did the other side take the initiative to find him, just for this? It's impossible. He pondered for a moment and replied with the same indifferent voice, I don't know much about Sharingan. Do you have any advice? Sharingan is also called the Eye of the Soul portrayal, and it is decided that Sharingan is formidable. The factor of power is Eye's power. We don't know the specific situation of Eye's power for the time being, but what is certain is that it is difficult for an outsider to generate Eye's power even if they obtain a Sharingan. Uchiha Yuan said. That means it is not only the Eye but also the evolution of bloodline. It is integrated with the Uchiha bloodline. So it is impossible for those who don't have our bloodline. Even if it works, I think it is also a very special situation, and the bearer must have paid a huge price. Danza and Yuan answered each question, then fell silent. Do you want me to explain this in my manga? Akaban looked thoughtful. Even the story must follow certain common sense. The adaptation is not random. With this information, it will make your story more perfect. As for how to draw, this is your freedom. I only hope you will have a reasonable explanation. Uchiha Yuan said kindly. I understand. Akaban looked towards Danza, and finally slightly nodded. Uchiha Yuan's goal is still to reconcile, the difference is that he chooses to say these to himself, letting Danza distinguish the authenticity by also making him come here. With the second Hokage being very hostile to Uchiha. Naturally, he also has research. He believes that Danza has a certain ability to distinguish if what he said was true. In some ways, it is true. Sharingan transplant has not been successful so far. Danza thought about it in secret, and finally did not say anything, tacitly agreeing between the two parties. For Akaban, this is not just an agreement, but also a manifestation of goodwill. I believe this is another reason why Uchiha Yuan met with Akaban and Danza. Since it is not possible for Uchiha to talk about these things. Since there is still something to do in the clan, I will leave first. Uchiha Yuan said with a smile. Walk slowly, since I will not send you. Danza said, but his attitude remains unchanged as if he has not been affected by the Sharingan's information. Patriarch Yuan bowed slightly then disappeared instantly. Teacher, do I still need to go for the training? No need, you can release your clone. Danza said while glaring at him angrily. Well, I'm just a genin, not a big shot like you, teacher. The clone responded. Danza was too lazy to retort to his reply and also disappeared instantly. Seeing Danza disappear, Akaban's clone releases himself and the memory returns to the main body. On Konoha Street, the true body who was walking immediately twitched from the sudden inflow of info. Being a ninja is really convenient, he thought. He was planning to go home to sleep, but thinking of Tsunade who was waiting at his shop, he had no other choice but to go to the manga shop again. Many people at the shop came to buy manga, but Tsunade was sitting in front of the door absent-mindedly, so when Akaban returned, she didn't notice him. "You haven't left yet." "Huh? You are back." Tsunade got up and immediately asked, "How about, what did the teacher say?" "Nothing important, just let me patch something." Akaban sat down and said, "Patch?" Tsunade thought about it for a long time but still didn't understand what this term means. "Just adding information to the settings," Akaban explained. "When it comes to patching, the reader's book is indispensable, but the settings need to be slightly modified depending on the situation." He sat down where Tsuna was sitting earlier and took out his tools, and without wasting time he started directly to draw the portrait of Kakashi. The setting from this page needs to be added to the next volume, so it must be produced as soon as possible. Kakashi. Tsunade, who was at the side, glanced at the portrait he was creating. She stood beside him and watched him draw in amazement. A minute or two later, Kakashi's black and white portrait appeared on the paper, his headband on his forehead, revealing the Sharingan on his left eye. However, after drawing the portrait, Akaban put the paper away. "Hey, what are you doing?" Tsunade can imagine that there must be something written underneath the picture since there is a large blank space on it, so how can he not continue at this time? "I'm a little tired, so I'm going back first to rest and continue the rest after I wake up," Akaban said while he yawned. "Remember that I was awoken by you very early today." "Stingy man." Tsunade mumbled aggrievedly, "Isn't it just climbing the window in the morning? If you promise me that you will not climb my window in the future, then I will keep writing." "You." Tsunade clenched her fist tightly hearing his condition, and then took a few deep breaths and said with a sneer, "Fine. I won't climb the window. Are you satisfied now? With this sentence, I will reluctantly work overtime." Hearing her promise, Akaban spread it out again and continued to write. In the beginning, it was Kakashi's simple introduction as a Konoha Hidden Village's elite Chunin, and formerly Anbu member. 12-year-old Jonin. "Your setting is exaggerated," Tsunade exclaimed in surprise. After seeing the rest of his information, Jonin are just titles. During the war, Jonin had a high death rate, so the promotion rate was naturally high. Akaban answered in one sentence and continued to write. Next is a bunch of data: ninjutsu 10, taijutsu 9, genjutsu 8. Tsunade at first did not understand why, but soon after seeing it, she soon realized why. 10 is estimated to be the highest point. The higher the data, the stronger the strength. Looking at the previous items, the ninja named Kakashi in the manga is almost all around, and there is no shortcoming. She was about to say that he was an abnormal, but stopped herself when she saw the chakra data of 5. 5. You must be joking, this chakra is too little. Elite Jounin is all peak experts of the village. A ninja chakra that has only 5 is definitely too unbelievable for a Jounin rank shinobi. It's not an exaggeration, Sharingan is not without price. Akaban continued to write notes while explaining. The main reason for writing this paragraph is to patch how outsiders use Sharingan, so the question about Kakashi chakra is naturally the top priority. Sharingan, also known as the Eye of Soul portrayal, its power is intimately related to Uchiha bloodline and spiritual will. Tsunade read word by word, and she was shocked when she saw how accurate the details Akaban wrote. With this information, she thought Akaban stole this information from the Uchiha's library. Because a teammate voluntarily donated it, Sharingan transplant was successful, but without Uchiha bloodline, he would have to pay a huge price to use Sharingan. Akaban didn't write that too clearly, but being not too clear about the information, the more fascinating the story became. Tsunade fell into deep thought, and then she asked, the condition for Sharingan to be turned on is voluntary, and so he has so little chakra because of his Sharingan. Almost. Akaban finally wrote a line of notes of thanks to Uchiha clan for their help on Sharingan information. Uchiha clan told you this information? Tsunade was dumbfounded since it was hard to believe. Yes, the Uchiha's clan leader said it himself. Akaban laughed, without explaining it in detail. When he gets the memory of his clone, he himself also thought it's unbelievable, but it is the case. He put this page on the drawing board, waited for it to dry, and handed it directly to Tsunade. What are you giving this to me? Tsunade was taken aback. Senju clan is more familiar with Yamano-san, so please send it for me, and tell him that it will be attached to the last page. Akaban said calmly. Tsunade wanted to vomit blood after hearing it. No matter whether she agreed or not, the piece of paper would fall into her hands in the end. Akana was sitting in a chair, while the piece of paper was hanging in her hand since she unconsciously took it when he gave it to her. Hey, you already take it. You. Humph, I will deliver it for you, but I'm still going to use your window. Tsunade took over Kakashi's profile page and sneered. My house has a door. Akaban is very speechless. How can you go back on what you promised? Will you wake up if I walk through your gate? I don't care. I'm leaving. Tsunade waved her hand and ignored him. She didn't admit that she had insomnia yesterday, so she got up early and opened the window to see who was in his room. Forget it, it's up to you. I have to go back to her some sleep. If persuasion fails, Akaban can only give up. It's not a big deal anyway. Although Tsunade feels a sense of shame every time she comes in through the window, just like from how he can see under her clothes, but the shame she feels every time it happens disappears after a long time. Tsunade used body flicker jutsu and quickly disappeared from his sight. Akaban was planning to go home and really plan to sleep, but when he turned around, he suddenly thought the direction Tsunade is running to is not Senju clan. That direction is the factory. This girl wants to help me deliver it personally. He stayed for a while. He didn't need to be like this. Somehow Akaban felt a little guilty, and thought, maybe I should have taken a trip by myself. Young master, are you going back? Kurama Yunlang asked with some hesitation. What's the matter? Akaban took a look and found that many people came around. They have a manga in hand. When Akaban is called to stop, a person starts to talk and asks, Akaban-sama, my child likes your manga very much. Can you draw a poster? I'm willing to give money. He is just an ordinary person, not a ninja. So 100 tiles is not a small amount for him. Hearing him, Akaban took a closer look. There are many civilians like him. Because they are ordinary persons, they dare not ask. After thinking for a moment he sighed and said, Okay, but I don't care about the money, I will only draw 10 portraits, and every time the manga is updated, I will select 10 people at that time to give free posters. 10. Everyone glances at each other. They are a little moved by what Akaban said, but when they hear that only 10 people can get a free illustration, they suddenly become nervous. It's because there are 20 to 30 people currently in the shop and only 10 can get it. Don't worry, I will choose randomly, of course, this gentleman will definitely get one today. Akaban pointed at the man who started to talk first. And then sit down thinking. What should I paint? He thought about it for a while, and simply painted something that he hadn't painted before, just to practice his hands. After a few minutes, the first one is completed. Come here you go. Akaban gave the completed illustration to the man who asked him earlier. After the man saw it, he hesitated, and after a few seconds he couldn't help but ask, "Is this also a character in your manga?" "Yes it is, but it's not from the manga of Shinobi, but from a new manga I plan to draw. It's a new character. And his name is Monkey D. Luffy." Akaban replied. Monkey D. Luffy. What a strange name, and the style of the painting is so bad. Although he thought that the style of painting is very strange since it's free. Forget it, it's fine. Soon, the second and third pictures. It is difficult for everyone to accept a completely different style of painting from what they always saw. But since it's free, the people who got the poster are still happy to have it. It seems I push myself too hard. Akaban stretched. Since all 10 posters have been distributed, the surrounding villagers quickly dispersed and the shop suddenly became empty of customers. "Young master, are you really going to have a new manga?" asked Yun Lane, who was watching Akaban from inside the store. "It's for warming up. Working overtime is tiring enough, so how can creating another manga a warm-up?" Yun Lane though. What Akaban said made Yun Lane speechless. Recently, Akaban can't provide new chapters due to his missions, and also the sales channels have not yet rolled out, so if he has that spare time to draw another manga, it is better to draw more chapters of Naruto. So hearing Akaban's word of warming up, he really didn't understand it. However, during this period of time of getting along with Akaban, he felt that it was impossible for Akaban to release a new manga shortly. Well, unless the young master has a breakthrough and can maintain 2 shadow clone jobs at the same time. Yun Lane thought. Akaban returned home with his tools, and entering the manor, he saw Kurama Izumu bandaging the little loli in the house. And he was surprised. "I'm back. Why is she hurt? Did someone bully her?" Akaban frowned, seeing how blood oozing from little Lolita wounds. He walked over and picked bandage to help her. "No one bullied her, it's your dad's fault. He wants to teach her how to use kunai, but Tomiko accidentally scratched herself with its edge." Kiko poked her head out of the kitchen after hearing Akaban and said angrily, "It's not Godfather's fault, it's me who asked to be taught." Little Lolita has initially accepted the identity of being part of the Kurama family as their daughter, so seeing Kurama Izumu training, she immediately asked to be also trained. I'm not careful this time, so I will pay attention next time," Akaban's father muttered. "Did you say next time?" Kurama Kiko, who was inside the house, immediately appeared in front of Kurama Izumu with a scary expression that made him scared to finish his word. "I won't dare anymore." Kurama Izumu decisively surrendered, seeing his wife's face. While the little Lolita who was watching the show giggled happily seeing it. Hearing little Lolita's voice that was like a sound from a bell, the two couples glanced at each other, secretly relaxed. Seeing this scene, Akaban chuckled lightly. After that, he looked towards the translucent panel, and what he saw made him stand there like a statue from shock. Because the total price of the Uzumaki physique suddenly dropped by 1 point when he just touches the little Lolita blood. This is sufficient proof that Uzumaki clan's blood can lower the price for the system. But his happiness becomes short-lived. After testing it for one more time, he found out that only the perception ability dropped by 1 point. Is it because Tomiko have a perception ability? Akaban secretly sighed and put the bondage that has blood back. Even if the blood of the little Lolita is drained, I am afraid it will not drop too many points. If he can get Uzumaki Maito's blood, he may be able to significantly reduce a lot of points needed for the physique. After all, Uzumaki Maito's strength and physique development level is the strongest in Uzumaki clan, and her real quality is not comparable to that of the little lowly Hu Young. However, it is still better than nothing since it's still a less point. Now I have more than 400 points on hand, and I can get some points next, plus the 4th book will definitely make up 1,000 for one. Akaban put the tool aside, then sat on the table and pondered. Little Loli's hands are bandaged, and now she is quietly reading the 2nd volume of the manga. After arriving at Konoha, she is more interested in manga. Similar to her, there are children who live in Senju clan. These children with the Uzumaki surname are now assigned to the few remaining families in Senju clan, but every afternoon, they will gather in Uzumaki Maito courtyard. Of course, it is not for training ninjutsu or taijutsu, but for the whole group to read manga together. For example now. Grandma, I have finished reading the 2nd volume. Are you going to read the 3rd volume today? Genon, although you have finished reading it first, but many children have not finished it yet, so I'm going to read the 3rd volume this afternoon. Uzumaki Maito said gently and calmly. But you are a team, understand? Hearing her words, Genon Uzumaki held back what he was about to say. After that, the manga book was published, and everyone quietly began to read the manga. After reading for a long time, one of the children asked, "Mother-in-law, why is Sakura grade so good, but she is worse than Naruto in battle?" Yes, Naruto at least tried, but she kept on. When someone started, the others who were also listening couldn't help but also complain about their views on the plot. Her control ability and theory are good, but she didn't have the willpower to fight. She didn't even know why she fought. Uzumaki Maito lightly explained. Willpower to fight. As a group of children, they do not understand what this means. They all looked towards Uzumaki Maito, hoping she could answer. People always have goals in fighting. For example, everyone in the hidden Uzumaki village is fighting for our clansmen and also for the country. Uzumaki Maito said. Grandma means that Sakura has no goals for fighting. Someone asked looking thoughtful. Yes, she probably only sees the little boy in her eyes. Uzumaki Maito sighed. Although this is a manga, such scenes also do exist in reality, and they are not that rare. It turns out to be that. Then what about you, Grandma? Me. Uzumaki Maito leaned on her rocking chair with a look of recollections on her face. If there is such an opportunity, it may be for the Uzumaki clan and Senju clan, or maybe for Konoha. But she knew very well that the chances of it happening are almost nil. As Ninetales Jinchuriki, her strength is very strong, but also because her strength is too strong, once she leaves, she will agonize the attention of other ninja village. Children, you have to become stronger, but at the same time you have to understand why you are fighting. Uzumaki Maito said resolutely, don't let negative things affect yourself. There is no doubt about the physique of the Uzumaki clans being strong, and the 10 children that are here on Konoha must be selected very carefully. These children will definitely become ninja in the future, but the Uzumaki clan. Thinking about the future made her heart heavy. She knows that the Uzumaki clan will face disaster, but she can't do anything about it. How many of these children will live in the shadow of hatred if news one day reaches their ears? But it's for the future. Right now the children who didn't know anything were calling out about their dreams. Becoming one of the guardian family. Become an expert. I want to be like Naruto, to become Hokage. Idiot, we belong to Uzumaki clan. Everyone quarreled about their dreams, and seeing it Uzumaki Mito cover her mouth and smile gently, and the gloom in her heart was swept away by everyone's smile. Okay, everyone has finished reading the second book, now you can read the third book. Coming here even though it's already getting darker. Are you so free this time? Yes. Tsunade replied. Then she took out the portrait of Kakashi and dangled it proudly. Don't shake it, this one is for you too. Akaban sighed and took out a picture from his pocket. What, Tsunade was surprised and covered her mouth with her other hand, and after a while, she quickly recovered her happiness. Because what she saw is a portrait painting of herself which made her happy. It's just a portrait. Akaban shrugged. After a pause, he sincerely thanked her. Also, thank you for sending that page for me earlier. It's a trivial matter. I want to exercise my taijutsu anyway. Tsunade said cheerfully, then she put her portrait in her pocket cautious, afraid of it having a scratch. You are so diligent, I hope all children have the same mindset as you. Akaban said. Then he took out a tool. The 5th volume is still halfway short. And Yamano-san will deliver it today after it is mass-printed, so he has to finish the rest today. Okay, you finally worked hard, when I didn't say it. The shadow clone said after emerging. Tsunade is speechless. She thought that Akaban would draw himself, but it seems not. She should expect it knowing Akaban. However, in the next second, she saw Akaban had brought out a set of tools for himself after coming back. Do you think I'm going to be lazy? What a joke, will I make it so easy for you to guess? Akaban said, then smiled triumphantly. He sat on his stool and after pondering for a while, he started to paint. Okay, then I'm going to start training too. When Tsunade saw how Akaban was so motivated for the very time, she also became stimulated. If even this kind of slacker has started to work hard, what reason does she have to not do anything? Tsunade immediately runs far away from where Akaban is. She wants to master perfectly her strength controls, so she deliberately moves far away from where Akaban is since she didn't want to disturb him with the noise she will make. Bang! Hearing a loud bang, Akaban stopped his movement. Akaban stopped not because he was disturbed, but because how the sound was so different from when he saw her first train. The movement is much smaller, but still loaded with strength. It just means that Tsunade's control has improved very quickly. But thinking about her manga self, it's not really strange for her control to be this perfect since she can't revolutionize the medical ninjutsu in the ninja world without her perfect control. Akaban sighed thinking how amazing Tsuna really is, but then quickly began to paint. It's almost evening. Young master, Mr. Yamano's team has arrived, and he has printed the manga. Yunlane arrives and informs him. I understand, you go to the clan and call someone to arrange and put the manga on the shelves, and I will take care of the promotion. Akaban was not surprised when he heard the news since Tsuna already told him earlier about it. Kurama Yunlane responded, and then he glanced at Akaban suspiciously. He felt something seemed wrong. Following Akaban's instruction, he walked and pondered about it. What's wrong? No matter how he thinks about it, he can't really pinpoint what's wrong. The young master working hard is the one that's not right. Kurama Yunlang exclaimed. In the past, the young master only let Shadow Clone do the work, while he lay there on his own leisurely, but today he painted the manga himself. In addition to painting posters, this was the first time he saw it. Tsunade, Yamano-san is here, I'm going to meet him, so I won't accompany you, Akaba shouted to Tsuna, who was far releasing the clone that was on his side, and he one by one put away the manuscript, waiting for Tsuna to reply. After a few minutes, her voice was heard. Okay, I'm over too. Tsunade stopped immediately hearing Akaba's voice and then began to deal with the messy scene she created. I'm going to compile the 5th volume, so I'm going to go ahead. Sure. Akaban hurried back home, took out the previous drawing, and compiled it with the one he drawn this time. When he arrived at the manga shop, the layout and page numbers were already marked. In front of the door, a group of people is busy in a frenzy. Even the factory manager, Yamano-san, was so busy that he personally helped unload the goods. Mr. Yamano, thank you and the workers for rushing to make this batch of the manga. Akaban stepped forward and bowed to thank him. Only half a day has passed before he gives the 4th volume, but it has been rushed out, which shows the high efficiency of these people. This is the credit of Daimyo, Your Majesty. Yamano laughed, and then explained to Akaban, I don't know how the Daimyo heard about you, but due to his orders a lot of manpower was mobilized to expanded our production. Daimyo also knows my manga. Akaban eyes shined. Yes, Daimyo, Your Majesty said, your manga is a new cultural industry and should be encouraged. Yamano smiled brightly and said with a tone of gratitude. Thanks to your cooperation, the equipment of the printing production department of our factory has been updated. That's very good, let's go inside and talk about it. The news made Akaban's heart agitated. He took Yamano-san and walked into the comic house. Although the images of the two of them are nondescript due to their age issues, Izumi Yamano didn't think it was strange, and he followed Akaba to the house to discuss in detail. Yamano-san, have you asked about the caravan? Akaban sat up nervously. The two caravans have agreed to cooperate, and one wants to sell them once or twice for observation. 3 caravans. Hearing Akaban startled, Yamano quickly apologized, for he thought that Akaban was disappointed. The time is too short. And there are only 4 caravans passing by, so. No, I was so surprised that you could find it all at once. And 3 caravans at that. Akaban sincerely admired how fast they work. May I ask, where are the locations of 3 caravans responsible for the transactions going? A team goes to Land of Snow, one goes to Land of Rivers, which means that the observation team usually goes to Land of Iron. Yamano Izumi replied. Except for Land of Rivers, these are relatively stable countries. Akaban looked thoughtful. In fact, Land of Rivers is also quite peaceful. So far. Land of Rivers is located in Land between of Fire and Land of Wind, which is the buffer zone between the 2 countries. At this stage, there is no war between the Wind and Fire. Land of Rivers can be at peace. However, when the war starts again. But at this time, it is not yet that bad. Then thank you, Mr. Yamano, here is the 5th volume, sorry to trouble you, and in a while, I may ask you to print another brand new manga. Akaban bowed and thanked him, and then took out the prepared album. Another kind of manga, aren't you busy? Yamano said in surprise. It's not a problem, the other one is an experimental work. After this one is stable, we will send it out to see the markets of other countries. The Naruto regional culture is too egregious, and it is difficult for other countries to accept a new thing. Of course. He is also not sure whether One Piece manga will be accepted abroad. In this case, you can send someone to the factory when you need it. By the way, next time you come yourself, you can hand over the Lady Mito token to the clansmen, and the people in our factory will recognize it. Izumi Yamano suddenly remembered and added embarrassingly. Thank you so much, then. Akaban got up, picked up a large poster at the back, and carefully covered it with a cloth. Yunling, you will put this at the door tomorrow, and then go to the street to pull a banner. Akaban instructed. Yes, young master. But what's a banner? Kurama Yunling took it and silently glanced at it through the cloth. It looks like a poster. It's called a banner. I didn't have time to make it. So you will let someone do it tomorrow. The text will simply say that our manga has been updated, which is enough, and customers who have come will buy it. Akaban said, picking a manga book at hand and clipping a thin picture in it. After a while, all 10 paintings were randomly clipped into the manga book. Writing banners as propaganda seems very simple for Akaban, whose soul comes from the earth. That's why he didn't think it would attract customers that much. However, on the next day, he saw banners hanging on the street that read manga has been updated, interested customers and friends come and buy it. Seeing the banner made Akaban stunned for a long time. This directly copied the second half of his sentence without changing it at all. Are you for real? He walked to the manga shop with a dark face, and his eyes widened because of the scene in front of him. The shop was surprisingly crowded. Such a rubbish slogan. Akaban was silent for a moment, feeling his IQ being insulted. Although he can only see a few words on it, it seems to work just fine as an advertisement. He sighed slightly, then walked outside the store and observed carefully. Well, that is. A wave of chakra fluctuation attracted his attention. Akaban looked over. The fluctuations originated from a boy in white clothes. He stood there quietly, a little different from the surrounding people who were reading or buying comics. Hyuga clan. Looking at the Hyuga kid who was looking at the ruffle box made his complexion change and come closer to the kid. Reaching the kid's side, Akaban patted his shoulder that made the little boy turn his head to look at him. Hey, do you want to cheat to obtain the poster? Akaban said helplessly. He forgot that he was in the ninja world, so if they want to cheat there are simply too many ways to do it. The little boy of Hyuga clan was a little bit ashamed, but after thinking about it for a moment, he whispered, "It's not on the rules. I will put it now." Akaban said, then he went to the door to pick up a pen and write a few words, and add a sentence like the final rendition of this activity belongs to the store in the last column. The boy from Hyuga clan lowered his head in frustration and mumbled in a displeased manner. However, he didn't give up. He picked a manga and paid for it. He plans to draw on the shuffle, but a haughty voice was heard coming from outside the store. Cannot use ninja ability. My luck is always good. I can get a manga poster without using my ability. At this moment, Akaban also heard another voice. Tsunade, forget it. Through childhood, which time did you win a bet base on your luck? It's none other than Tsunade and Jiraiya. When Akaban turned his head, he saw Jiraiya flying away with a punch. I have won twice. Hearing his word, Tsunade immediately became enraged that she sent Jiraiya flying with her fist. But when she immediately remembered how she won the poster, a smile bloomed on her face and took a big stride inside the shop. Tsunade, I think. Akaban feels a little hesitant. This is also a gamble based on luck, so if Tsuna becomes addicted to it, it's not good for him and also for the shop. HMPH, you also think I can't get it, right? For a ninja, if you look closely, it is not difficult to see the subtle difference in thickness of the stick. But Tsuna didn't look at it at all, she just directly picked a copy. This is a real bet on luck. Akaban is a little nervous, what if she really gets it? It's been a long time since I bet, so I must have good luck this time. Tsunade is full of motivation, she slowly pulls it cautiously and carefully turns page by page. You can just flip it quickly. Jiraiya, who came back tiredly, said, and he also took a copy at hand. You don't understand the feeling of gambling. Tsunade's eyes are shining, and she looked like a pious gambler. But when she turned it after a long time, there was nothing but consolation. In the end, there is still no poster. Akaban let a long sigh and relaxed. Alarming but not dangerous. Ha ha ha, your luck, sure enough, you won't win the prize. Jiraiya happily picked up the copy next to Tsunade, flipped it, and a page of posters fell out of the book. Wah ha ha ha, the luck of this uncle is very good. Bang! After a punch, Tsunade threw down another 100 tiles angrily. If even Jiraiya was better than her. It was unbearable. She picked another one from the shelf, but, still nothing. Forget it, Tsunade. Akaban couldn't bear it. She obtained her first prize in the opening because Danza didn't take his. If it weren't for Danza, she wouldn't receive any reward. It shows that her luck is unique. No, I still want to buy it. What kind of luck does it need just to pull a poster? I will definitely get it. She thought angrily. But after buying 10 copies in a row, she still didn't obtain one. Jiraiya, for the sake of your own life, I advise you not to laugh. Akaban pulled Jiraiya on his side, then said in a hushed voice. Although he was also holding back very hard, it is unwise to add fuel to the fire, especially in front of a red-eyed gambler. Jiraiya wanted to provoke her a bit, but his ribs are inexplicably painful, so he tries to comfort her but. Tsunade, bad luck is not your fault, next time. Bang! With a punch, Tsunade took away all the 10 manga she bought, then left furiously. These 11 books are just enough for the kids in the house. If she buys one more time, she can only give it away. Besides, this one has already consumed half of her savings. I want to comfort you. Jiraiya, who got punched, said angrily while covering his head. Idiot, if it's you who comforts her, she will only think you're insulting her. That's why you got punched. Akaban said sympathetically. In his previous life, he is also a bettor and feels the same with Tsunade. Jiraiya doesn't understand the meaning of what Akaban said, and he can only shrug his shoulders and think of it as his bad luck. Jiraiya didn't really take it to his heart since it's a daily occurrence for him to be beaten by Tsuna. He sat in the chair at the door, minding his own business while reading the manga. After reading for a while, Jiraiya couldn't help but snigger at Akaban. I suspect that you ridiculed Sakumo's son for his chakra reserves. It has only been a few times for him when he uses ninjutsu, but his chakra is already exhausted. Is Sakumo also like that? Jiraiya was speechless when he read it. How could it be possible for Sakumo to have little chakra? Akaban casually replied. What Akaban said didn't reach Jiraiya's ears, because his focus was completely on the girl in the manga that made him stand up from excitement. Whoa! She is so beautiful and cute. Wow! This little elder sister is so beautiful, Akaban, what is her name? Jiraiya energetically asks Akaba. If you look down, you will know. Akaban shrugged. Akaban, I found that you are also very good at painting girls. If you don't even think about it, it's impossible to draw that kind of boring thing. Needless to say, Akaban knows what this silly lack means, but fortunately, Jiraiya lacks roots, otherwise, normal people would have guessed who painted that arrow page. Jiraiya looked attentively at the picture and compared it while reading. After a long time, he read all the plots. I am in love with this girl. Although Zabuza's face makes me upset, she still feels so cute. Hearing it, Akaban felt that Jiraiya had awakened something again. He originally planned to tell him about Haku, but after pondering about it, he thought that it's better not to tell him so he can enjoy his expression later. Although it's only a small amount of change, the feeling of shattering their dream should be refreshing to witness. After he finished reading the manga, Jiraiya sat down and he excitedly took out his drawing board and started painting. Hey, don't draw that kind of disrespectful things in front of my shop. Akaban's complexion changed seeing what Jiraiya's planning to draw. However, at this time, Jiraiya was like Tsunade who was gambling that didn't want to stop, so he couldn't dissuade him at all. He paints and draws quickly, and within a few seconds, the outline has been roughly outlined on the paper. Don't disturb me, my inspiration is bursting, my brain is trembling. Jiraiya was so excited, the pen in his hand was surprisingly stable, drawing one after another soft line. Only on painting skills, he made rapid progress. However, the content in the painting has gradually developed in an unhealthy direction. At this time, many people came out of the store to watch. Akaban was about to stop him but heard a familiar cough. Jiraiya, there is a limit to mischief. The third Hokage. It's such a coincident time again. Akaban looked up and saw Sarutobi Hiruzen with suspicion in his eyes. If there were not many people he would definitely not stop it. TSK, TSK, TSK. You have a guile to draw this thing. And you do it in public although you are Hokage summer student. What a shame. Seeing the appearance of Sarutobi Hiruzen, the onlookers who were enjoying what Jiraiya was doing earlier, immediately changed their faces and scolded Jiraiya like what he was doing disgusted them. What's wrong with painting this? This is an art. Hearing the mocking voices around him, made Jiraiya enraged. He even explained it with incomprehensible words such as natural beauty and human art. Hiruzen who was listening faked a cough and said, Jiraiya, do your training. Yes, teacher. Faced with Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya could only put away his tools in frustration. It is good to have goals and determination, but it must be on the right path. Sarutobi Hiruzen patiently preached. I understood, teacher. Jiraiya bowed his head with a regretful expression on his face. Double your training. If you just lays here, you can't keep up with Orochimaru and Tsunade. How could I be inferior to Orochimaru? Jiraiya immediately exploded hearing Orochimaru's name, and said unconvinced, I will go to Mount Myoboku to continue training soon. Oh. There will be a Chunin exams in 10 days. You must have this confidence so you can take the exam. And in that period, you can prove yourself. Sarutobi Hiruzen laughed. This uncle will definitely surpass Orochimaru. Jiraiya was indignant and took the manga and his first draft and left. So simple. Akaban was speechless. The third Hokage really knows Jiraiya too well, and because of a little comparison between Orochimaru, he immediately becomes motivated and trains. Same as Naruto, isn't it? Sarutobi Hiruzen smoked and laughed softly, then looked towards Akaban and the fourth manga. He hasn't read the update yet, but Uchiha didn't make any noise anymore yesterday. The third Hokage didn't know what happened in the process, but he knew that both sides had reached a consensus, so he didn't need to worry about it anymore. So he picked up the manga and looked at what Akaban drew. Although he has seen some of it through his crystal ball jutsu just now, it's not really comparable to reading it close. After all, what he saw was from afar. What, using a few ninjutsu and already fainted, isn't it going to embarrass the Hatake clan? After reading for a few seconds, he suddenly said such a sentence. This is the price of power. Ha ha ha, don't mind it, it's just a comment. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued to read and then paused on a certain page. Discovering Hiruzen's movement, Akaban glanced at it out of curiosity. And what he saw was the picture of Haku that made him smile and thought. Hey, this pair of master and disciple. Hiruzen, who was looking at Haku's picture, seemed to feel Akaban's gaze and coughed a little embarrassed. He reached out to his pocket and suddenly froze. Ha! Hiruzen's complexion stiffened, he retracted his hands and pushed the tobacco pipe. Sensei, if you have no money, I will give you this book. Akaban lightly said with a smile. Ah, the money is still to be given, I will send someone to give you 100 tiles back. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face blushed. Because he is a shadow clone, he didn't bring any money with him when he went out. He just habitually touched his pockets, and then he remembered this stuff. After that, he lifted the cigarette pipe to signal that he was leaving. Sensei, walk slowly. Akaban bowed to see him off, and when the third Hokage left, several people came out of the store. They looked at the back of the third Hokage leaving. All of them have a surprised look and a face full of amazement. Even our Lord Hokage likes manga, I really didn't expect it, said one of the readers. Of course, every manga must be given to Lord Hokage for review first, Akaban said with a proud look. But seeing how these people were full of amazement reminded him that next time in his advertising slogan, he should add a sentence, a manga that Hokage likes. Really good idea. Boss, give me 10 manga. At this moment, there was a voice coming outside the door, and everyone immediately turned their head and looked over. What they saw was a kid with a haughty look and clothes that had a fan on its back. Akaban took a few glances. He always felt he was familiar, and he seemed to have done hand-to-hand combat with him, but he couldn't remember the name of this person. Seeing Akaban looking at him, the kid moved his eyes nervously, pretending not to see him. Uchiha, okay, here are your 10 manga. Kurama Yunlane enthusiastically took 10 books from the shelf, stacked them into a stack, and handed them to Uchiha. As soon as he heard the name, Akaban remembered. When this manga shop first opened, he came to make trouble but was persuaded by himself to correct evil and return to the right. Sure enough, he is in love with his manga now. Bring me a few of the first 3 volumes. Uchiha spoke a little bit quickly and turned his body sideways, for fear of seeing Akaban. In fact, Akaban is no stranger to this expression. Most otaku when meeting acquaintances on the street, probably have this expression, including Akaban from the previous life. Okay, all 10 books, right up. UN. Uchiha responded and threw 4,000 tiles on the table. Kurama Yunlane smiled happily seeing how many he had bought, and his movements were a lot faster and bought 10 copies of all 4 books in one breath. The Uchiha clan really has money. However, this Uchiha Ryo's outfit is a bit strange. Akaban looked at him suspiciously from the side. That's right. Black hair, blue clothes, white pants. Except for being relegated, resulting in no additional headband, the rest is almost the same as Uchiha Sajuke. Damn. A cosplay. Akaban was shocked and paid respect to Uchiha Ling. Here are your 10 sets of the manga. Kurama Yunlane folded the rest, covered it with cloth, and rolled it up in a large pile. So many. Uchiha Ryo stayed for a while, then clenched his teeth and picked up the package, pretending to easily go to Uchiha clan's residence. Yunlane, does he come every time? Akaban asked curiously. Yes, he will come back every time the book gets updated. Kurama Yunlane replied. When did he start dressing up? Oh, did you mean the clothes? It seems like he was like that a few days ago. Kurama Yunlane recalled for a moment and said. A few days ago, it was really a cosplay. Akaban sighed, and then a thought flashed through the mind. If more people in Konoha love manga, maybe we can hold a comic show. Young master, what is cosplay? Kurama Yunlane asked curiously. It's a kind of people who like manga. Akaban gave a rough explanation and thought secretly. The more he thinks about this, the more he thinks it is feasible. The ninja can use transformation jutsu, so it means that there will be no cost for it. When the arc of the Land of Waves is over, we can try to carry out this kind of activity. Having a comic show at Naruto World, Akaban is very excited just thinking about it, but he also feels it's very troublesome. As the organizer, there are too many things to do. The most important thing is the Land of Waves plot, and there are 8 chapters before it is finished. Forget it. Yunlane, I'm going back. Here you can take a look. If you are free, you can count the share of the factory. Akaban waved his hand and instructed. Fighting for a day or two, and finally rushing to produce the 5th volume, I have to take a vacation for myself. Young master, leave it to me. Kurama Yunlane answered while sorting out the money he just received. To be honest, Akaban doesn't know how much money the manga shop has in a day, it's all Kurama Yunlane in charge. If you want to change it to someone else other than Yunlane, to an average person, it will be hard for them to do it. Fortunately, Yunlane was in charge of some of the accounts in the clan before and took care of the money. So he mastered the trick for it. Now, all manga's income and share are from his contact with the factory, which can save Akaban a lot of thought. Otherwise, if he let him do this, such a cumbersome thing, it is estimated that his head will become bigger due to it. Teacher, we supported a local wealthy businessman in the name of rebellion, and initially took hold of their leadership, and soon we can slowly control Land of Waves. Murasaki reports on the progress of the mission and is also very puzzled at the same time. Seeing that they are about to control the Land of Waves secretly, Danza lets them come back at this time, which bewilders him. Teachers must have a special purpose. Sakumo indifferently said. Occupying a stronghold is enough, now is not the time to directly control Land of Waves. Danza coldly said. Yes. Ninja has a mission to complete tasks. No matter how many arguments they have in their hearts, they can only endure silently. The Chunin exam is near, you guys rest first and train for it because the 3 of you will participate when the time comes. Danza indifferently said. Chunin exams. Sakumo was stunned and then pondered, it seemed that time was approaching. Akaban is back. So that's how it is, then we will leave first. A trace of joy appeared on Murasaki's face, but then quickly changed it to his poker face. He looks at Danza and sighs in relief when he didn't scold him for it. Go. Danza waved his hand to indicate that they could leave. However, when Murasaki and Sakumo left, he gave a coldly snorted and looked at the location of the Hokage residence very dissatisfied. If it weren't for the third Hokage, the land of waves is supposed to be in his hand now. The route must be established fast. Danza's eyes are full of sneer. In his opinion, the third Hokage policy is too weak and can only passively wait for the enemy to attack. Peace. As long as there are differences between the 5 great countries, how can there be peace in the world? The manga has been updated, Sakumo. It seems that this period of time, Akaban has been laying for sure. Murasaki said with some envy. Land of Waves is an island country on the sea. And their mission in that country lasts for many days that their skin is much darker than before. So thinking about Akaba's mission and comparing it to them really made the two envy. Let's beat him up and let him know how powerful we become. Sakumo indifferently said. I'm not talking about that. What I mean is, him being idle make me unhappy. After a sleep, I got more than 1,000 points. Very good, I can exchange it for a kind of ability. After a good night's sleep, Akaban got up and stretched his body. The shadow clone on the side has disappeared, but there are many manuscripts left on the ground. His clone is really working hard. Ninjutsu is a really convenient ability. Akaban sighed slightly, then opened the catalogue and found the Uzumaki physique. I only have 1,000 points, but the most important thing must be exchanged first. What I need the most now is not chakra or perception, but vitality. After thinking for a moment, he made a firm determination. Exchange it for vitality. 1,000 points disappeared, and in the next second, he felt his body change rapidly. First of all, his physique directly increased by 10 points, so that his overall stamina reached 40 points. More than that, the most important thing is that he feels full of strength, which is completely different from the previous feeling of weakness. An absolutely good physique. Kurama and Moonlight Clan lack physique the most in the village, but now, Akaban's shortcomings in this area are filled. The efforts he did in this period of time were not in vain. He suddenly heard a small movement outside the window. Did someone climb the window again? Akaban is angry. He picks up a piece of paper and quickly draws a few lines. During the operation, the window was suddenly opened, and a silhouette rushed in quickly. Knife. But the moment Akaban saw it, he immediately enters his battle mode. Using a hand seal quickly with both hands, Akaban uses body substitution jutsu that made him disappear from his previous location. Bang! After the crisp sound, the silhouette disappeared immediately, followed by the remains of a chair chopped by a knife. Godfather, someone broke in again upstairs. The little loli who was downstairs sensed what was happening inside Akaban's room and voiced her worry to Izumu on her side. It must be Akaban's friend who is looking for him again, don't worry about it. Kurama Izumu answered habitually. Yeah, his friends are very strange, they always like to climb his window. Kiko chuckled softly and didn't worry about the movement upstairs at all. Is that so? Little Loli answered suspiciously, and then looked upstairs strangely. In Akaban room on the second floor. Hey, don't do such a dangerous thing to probe me next time. If I was a little late to avoid it, you will kill me. Akaban puts away the kunai in his hand after complaining and released the illusion that had been cast on Murasaki. I didn't expect your physique to improve so much, I didn't even react. Murasaki, who was holding his throat, said in coarse voice, his face full of pain. Even after leaving the illusory domain, the pain of being pierced by kunai in his throat is still very clear. It's not just his physique. Sakumo looked at Akaban and the split chairs on the ground. His hand seal speed is too fast. Sakumo, do we have such a big grudge? If I don't have body substitution jutsu, you will really hack me to death. Akaban said, a little speechless. No, I just feel like I can't cut you, so I do it seriously. Sakumo's answer was very direct. You and Sakumo didn't have any grudges. Look at Kakashi. He passed out after using a few ninjutsu, which is too tragic. Murasaki said, trying to assert the two. That's right. A simple and direct answer. Sakumo sheathed his blade and looked at Akaban with displeasure in his eyes. Hearing Murasaki's reminder made Akaban cough and said, "Oh, ignore these details." Akaban gave a light cough. He sat down on his bed, and looked at the two. He didn't plan to give them a chair to sit on, since who let them have the gall to destroy his beloved chair? Indeed, it is better for everyone to ignore the details. Looking at Akaban's troubled face made Murasaki nodded his head in satisfaction. He just really wanted to see Akaban's troubled face and didn't plan to argue with it. While Sakumo is not really concerned about it, since for him it's only a comic. Did you go out for a mission this period of time? Akaban asked in curiosity. Yes, but I can't tell you the specific mission. Murasaki replied while sitting on the floor. He also helps cleaning up the wreckage of the chair while talking. It seems to be Danza's mission. Konoha's missions are all open and transparent commissions, and there is nothing to conceal, and the personality of the two has changed more or less. So the change is probably due to some kind of repressive infiltration mission. But Akaban did not say anything, although he already guesses it, but instead said, "Then what is the purpose of attacking me?" Of course, test your strength. Chunin exams. The two said at the same time, straightforwardly to explain clearly. Akaban was stunned for a moment, and then he remembers how the third Hokage also mentioned Chunin exams earlier. Yes, it happens twice a year. Speaking of which, where is the Chunin exams held this time? Murasaki excitedly said, but he suddenly remembered he didn't know the location and looked at Sakumo for an answer awkwardly. Land of Wind, Hidden Sand Village. Sakumo glanced at him and answered badly. Hidden Sand Village. Akaban has a headache instantly. Then, does it mean that they have to leave the village again to go to another village? And at the village where it was super hot at Bot? Don't think about it, the teacher said you must participate. Murasaki lazily said. Sakumo hesitated for a moment. He knew very well that Danza did not say that. But no matter how he thinks about it, with Akaban's unreasonable request, neither Danza nor the third Hokage will agree to it. The Chunin exams, it's not just for yourself. Sakumo reminded. Makes sense. Akaban sighed. The Chunin exams is more like another battlefield to show the strength of Sand Village, and to take the exam, you must work together. If he does not go, it means that Sakumo and Murasaki cannot participate either. He doesn't care about the title, but forget it, just take a trip. Since I still never really been to the desert, then it's just about time to see it. No matter in his previous life or now, he has never seen a real desert, only a glimpse of scenery in the photos. Thinking about it this way, it doesn't seem so uncomfortable for him. Speaking of Hidden Sand Village, Akaban also thought of another thing since, among the caravans mentioned by Izumi Yamano-san previously, it seems that one of the caravans is going in the Land of Rivers direction. Land of Rivers and Land of Wind are very close. This trip happened to bring the comic book of One Piece. Good idea. Since we are going, of course, I cannot go empty-handed. Sand ninjas must have never seen the sea. Akaban thought to himself. By the way, Akaban, do you think Team 6 will also attend the exam? Murasaki suddenly asked. They were not in the village during this time, so they didn't know much about Team 6 currently doing. I think they will. Akaban is not sure about it. What the third Hokage said to Jiraiya should be more than pure motivation. Whether they go or not, we will go anyway. Murasaki said with a firm face while clenching his hand. Why are you so eager to go? Akaban feels very strange. Murasaki and Hidden Sand Village shouldn't have a conflict, right? Sooner or later, Hidden Sand Village will become our enemy. So obtaining their information in advance is a must, so that we won't fall into the losing end when we meet on the battlefield. Murasaki explained. It makes sense. Sakumo, who was silent on the side, nodded his head very approvingly, with a thoughtful expression on his face. I can only say, as expected of you, Murasaki. Akaban sighed. Why do you say that? Murasaki took out the comic book and was about to read it. It's nothing, but I think the teacher is very accurate. Akaban shrugged. The individual strength of Murasaki is not strong like Sakumo and Akaba, but his comprehensive strength is quite good, plus this familiar thinking. In a sense, he is very similar to Danza. Of course, Danza is more ruthless and unscrupulous, which Murasaki can't match. Of course. Hearing their teacher being mentioned, Murasaki nodded in agreement with a look of admiration. However, the teacher Akaban said is not Danza, but the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. The personnel arrangement is handled by Hokage from beginning to end. Hey, I didn't pay much attention to it before, but what's the matter with Kakashi's Sharingan? The last page. Sakumo indifferently asked. Murasaki turned to the last page, only to see a special page attached to the back of the fourth volume, with all the information of Kakashi on it. What? 12-year-old Chunin. His one eye was blinded during the mission, and his teammate who died in battle gave him the eye. This plot. I really can't think about it. Murasaki said with a painful look on his face, imagining what Kakashi felt during that time. Sakumo was sorting the fragments of the chair and put it in a bag. After that he wiped his short blade and indifferently said, being injured like that is unacceptable. In addition to the blade technique, the Hatake clan also possesses assassination and footwork techniques. For them, injuries to deadly parts such as the eyes are the most undesirable. I can't say anything on the battlefield. Akaban closed his eyes, and shook his head after a while, and continued, even if we were on the battlefield, life and death would be unpredictable. This is true. Murasaki put away the comic book, sighed, and said, it's just like what you said, so I am going to train. So hard-working. Yes, I am not a genius like you. Murasaki said with a shrug. He waved goodbye and jumped directly from the window. It makes sense. Without the system, it would be difficult for Akaban to graduate with the weak body of the Kurama family. I'm going back too. Sakumo got up, glanced back at the cloth bag containing the fragments of the wooden chair, paused for a moment, and said, "The money for the chair." "Money is not needed." Akaban waved his hand, refusing his money. He still had money, and buying a chair wouldn't hurt his pocket. "Okay." Sakumo was not polite with him. He nodded his head and carried his short blade and was about to jump out of the window. But he stopped when he heard Akaban. "Hey, there is a door in my house." Akaban, who saw how Sakumo was going to use his window as a door, reminded him immediately and thought, "What's wrong with you guys? Is my window now looks like a door?" Hatake Sakumo froze for a while, then he nodded his head and made way to the bedroom door and opened it, and prepared to leave from the main gate. "Godfather," someone came out of the room. Little Loli, that senses someone coming down, looked up towards the second floor and saw Sakumo coming out of the second floor. "What?" Kurama Izumu is a little surprised. Akaban's friend has come out of the main gate. Sakumo was slightly startled. Why everyone looks so surprised, and who is this little girl? Oh tilde, it turned out to be Sakumo. Looking at the incoming person, Kurama Izumu suddenly understood. "Uncle, aunt, I have to leave in advance." Sakumo bowed slightly, very polite. "Go, really a good child." In the kitchen, Kurama Kiko poked her head out with a happy face. Sakumo bowed again before leaving. "Akaban, your friend is so polite. It's worthy of being a child of the Hatake family." Akaban's parents are very moved. Because this is Akaban's first friend to leave using the main gate. Akaban rubbed his forehead. Although it was all true, it sounded really sad. "I'll go out." He wants to go out, not for training, but for Danza's trade. There are still a few training sessions left, and he has to make up the numbers. In addition, the final plot of Land of Waves has to be completed before the Chunin exams. So busy. Thinking carefully about this period of time. There is no leisure at all. He is busier than when he was at the land of Uzumaki. Akaban sighed slightly. Shaking his head, Akaban walked to the location where the route base was located with more familiarity since he had already gone there many times. As soon as he entered the range, a silhouette appeared in front of him. Still disguised, the same black-clothed and masks as the other people of the team, but this time Akaban can still recognize it at a glance. "Yuhai, are the team members here today?" I was recognized again." Moonlight Yuhai was a little unwilling, scratched her head feeling depressed, and then coughed uncontrollably. Akabar ignored her mood and continued, "I remember the team has training today. The route team now is not like the route team in the future, and most of them are elite candidates drawn from Anbu." "Yes." Moonlight Night Dance nodded her head. "Then I will go in first." Yuhai is not an official member yet, but her innate talent is better, and Danza valued her. Therefore, she is not eligible to participate in route training. Akaban nodded and directly walked past her, but paused for a moment when he walked to her side, and then said, "If you can, don't participate in the route." Moonlight Night Dance was taken aback for a moment and then looked towards Akaban in surprise. She wanted to ask back, but seeing Akaban's serious eyes, she suddenly held back the second half of her sentence. "Bye." Akaban patted her shoulder and headed into the entrance. Yuhai nodded and also disappears instantly. She knows what Akaban means, but she doesn't understand it in her heart. Didn't he Akaban himself speak with enthusiasm that day? Is route that bad? Yuhai was slightly confused, but her face did not show any strange expressions. The sound coming from the training room is getting clearer and clearer. Walking to the base, Akaban saw a group of people already tired and exhausted but still trained as harshly as ever. Teacher, everyone is tired, so I can just give everyone a rest. Akaban walked to the side of Danza, who was in charge of training, and said slightly with a smile. However, seeing him, the complexion of all root team members suddenly changed. Take a rest. Such a terrible genjutsu, what kind of rest is it? Lord, no, we are not tired yet. Someone exclaimed in horror. Yes, we are not tired, we can train again. The rest followed. Akaban, it seems that they are not tired. You can rest there for a while. Danza said with a smile, then waved his hand to signal everyone to continue the practice. Am I so scary? Akaban rubbed his hair speechlessly, and then simply sit aside and started painting. Stretching and shrinking one's head is also like a knife, and the one who insists on coming will still come. But this group of people wasted his time, and he will definitely give them some stuff later. Akaban thought to himself. The effect is good. I feel more and more that if I am not in the future, the root can be handed over to you. Danza indifferently said. Don't take this thing with you. Akaban mumbled. What is the root? All the darkness in Konoha, it will be done by the root in the future. Apart from this, regardless of whether it is rooted or not, some international disputes may also be root-led. So to get the root, it is simply taking a pot. More and more ninja villages are intervening in the land of Uzumaki. And many people hope that the Uzumaki clan will be extinct. But we, Konoha, cannot participate in the war openly, so we can only take action by sending Anbu. Danza looked at ninjas in front of him who are training harshly with a rare feeling of emotion. Are you going to give your last words? Akaban answered casually. Danza paused for a moment after listening to what Akaban said, and then said with a sneer, No, how could I die on that kind of battlefield? Akaban ignored Danza sneered and instead warned the moment he saw the condition of Anbus. They won't be able to hold it anymore. If they pass out it will be troublesome. Several have fallen on the ground, and if this continues, everyone will end up in a coma. Don't worry, they are the elite of the elite. Danza replied in a very confident tone. Teacher, you are very confident. Akaban has nothing to say since he already had warned him, he can only listen since Danza manipulated those root members. He has already waited anyway, so he doesn't care if he waits a little longer. After a long time. Okay, everyone takes a rest. When all the members heard the cue, instead of resting, everyone collapsed to the ground due to exhaustion. Although no one passed out, their state was already close to it. When Akaban saw the Anbu's condition, he didn't give them a warning and made a hand seal in a fast movement. Genjutsu, Death Mirage Jutsu. There is no need for psychological guidance, because these members have accumulated enough fatigue and fear, and re-stimulation will stimulate their fighting spirit. That's why, the moment he saw their state, he didn't hesitate to drag all of them to his genjutsu. It's done. Akaban sat down relaxedly and continued painting after all of them entered the illusion. Danza glanced at him for a moment, then his eyes moved back to all Anbus that became unconscious. Ah! After a minute, screams of horror were heard in the training field and followed by all the people on the field to wake up at the same time. Who tilde? Gasping for breath, and holding back their fear, everyone glanced at each other, with a shock very clearly written on their faces. We died, all dead. Cough cough cough, it hurts. Danza slightly frowned seeing the reaction of the Anbus. These root members are all elites. Although there is still no way to ignore the pain of death, they shouldn't react this way, right? Why is this happening? He didn't experience the illusory domain and didn't understand what was going on, so he turned his head and looked towards Akaban. I pulled them to the same illusory domain. Akaban indifferently said. What? Danza was shocked. Death Mirage Jutsu does not have this function. Is this a modified genjutsu? More than that, this kind of genjutsu, regardless of the difficulty of release or the consumption of chakra, will increase exponentially. You brat. Danza survived the initial shock, then took a deep breath and continued, your chakra has grown a lot. UN. Akaban replied humbly. If before, when he used this kind of genjutsu once with so many people, he would immediately feel uncomfortable due to too much consumption of chakra. But when he used it once now, it didn't affect him at all. He is very clear that this is not only because his chakra reserve is increasing, but also because of his vitality. The recovery of physical energy has been significantly accelerated due to his new physique. How about it? Do you want to experience it again? Akaban scanned all of them and asked casually. Of course. Unlike before when they were unwilling, now everyone clenched their teeth and sat up, ready for round 2. Count me in this time, okay? Danza suddenly said while he also sat down on the ground. No problem, but teacher, you can't resist, otherwise I will be troubled by the backlash. Akaban said since it's not a problem for him to add one more person, but someone stronger than him resisting his genjutsu will only lead a great backlash to him, which is also the reason why he asked, although Danza already knew about it. Who knows if this old man tries testing his growth by resisting, he thought. Akaban formed hand seals with both hands to mobilize the chakra within his body. In an instant, the genjutsu was activated. Inside the illusory domain. When Danza opened his eyes, he saw a battlefield. Looking around, he saw the Hokage building behind him and also the statue of Hokage. Is this Konoha? He thought, puzzled by what he saw. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. Water style. The noisy sounds, chaotic chakra fluctuations, even the wind he feels blowing over him feels extremely real. 5 senses control. He walked forward from the building, blood was flowing across the street, and countless corpses were lying on the ground in a mess. Danza looked thoughtful seeing this scene. No wonder they are so scared, yet unswervingly enter the illusory domain again despite their fear. Because inside the illusory domain is the war of Konoha. It didn't take long for Danza to see the root members. They were fighting, but in front of a large number of enemies, they gradually got injured, and their physical strength slowly couldn't keep up. Because of the control of the 5 senses, this battle is extraordinarily real, making people feel completely real. This is no longer Death Mirage Jutsu. It's like a true battlefield. He is very moved. The discipline that the third Hokage forced over to him has grown to such a point. Bang! With a loud noise, the Konoha gate fell. The endless streams of enemies are too terrifying. A root member said in horror. We can't let them rush in. Kill. However, the enemies come from 3 ways, which made them become ambushed from both sides. Witnessing the battle made Danza commented. Very realistic illusory domain. After finally knowing what kind of illusion Anbus are experiencing, Danza didn't have any reason to stay, so he made hand seals using both hands, trying to lift genjutsu. After his eyes opened, he saw Akaban still painting. And focusing his sights on the drawing board, what he saw was a familiar yet unfamiliar drawing. The difference is that illusory domain is more complicated and real than what it looks like on the drawing board. So that's how it is, Genjutsu needs to be guided. Danza relaxed, and said, finally knowing the answer. The flaws are still big, it's just a preliminary experiment. Akaban explained. If it is really dangerous, he dare not experiment it with these people. The final form of this art is to directly guide illusory domain with spiritual energy, right? Danza asked. There are many illusions in the Anbus for torture. In addition, the root team has a specialized clan that was researching spiritual power, so Danza knows a lot about spiritual energy and genjutsu. Yeah, but my spiritual energy is not strong enough. In the past, Akaban has tried direct guidance, but the spiritual energy consumption is too large, and it consumes more than half of his chakra and mental energy when he first started using it. But now, due to his new physique and its perk of having a lot of vitality with its fast recovery, he can successfully use it. This illusory domain is very interesting, but it is probably only you can use it, otherwise it is worthy of large-scale promotion. Danza sighed softly in regrets and asked what's its name. Entering this kind of illusory domain can maximize the experience for oneself on the battlefield and enhance the collaboration between teams. It can be said that it is the most ideal testing ground. Unfortunately, only the Kurama clan can use such a reality. Once the effect of the real five senses is lost, illusory domain will be greatly reduced. Akaban laughed inexplicably, and then replied, Guardian of Hidden Leaf Village or Konoha's Bond is what I think, but I haven't determined the name yet. It's better to call it the Guardian of Konoha. Danza pondered and chose the former, the name Konoha's Bond. It sounds strange. Ah. Damn it. I died again. Only a little bit, almost survived the most terrifying wave. A bunch of Anbus left the illusory domain again, one after another, more tired than before, but this time, although everyone was in pain, none of them cried or became hysterical due to fear like previously. They gradually overcome it. Danza secretly thought in his heart. No, that's it for today. Akaban picked up his tools and got up, ready to leave. Ha! Is it over like this? Isn't it fast? Some members of the root team showed disappointment. Although the real illusory domain is terrifying, they can see the horror of the battlefield, and the improvement after entering for only 2 times can be seen on them. You are too impudent. Danza coldly said. Calm down, everyone. Genjutsu that blends into the real 5 senses can also cause considerable mental damage. A man from the root side suddenly said. Akaban glanced at him, and seeing how he knew so much about spiritual energy, it seemed that he was from Yamanaka clan. In fact, these people are at the weakest level of illusion, so entering another illusion won't affect them that much. But who is Akaban? So of course he wouldn't say it out loud. Even if they knew about it, he still wouldn't do it. Akaban waved his hand and headed for the passageway. After entering the cave, a silhouette appeared. A clone. Akaban looked back thoughtfully. Danza is still at the root team base, so he didn't know why he appeared. The mission here is over, you don't have to come here deliberately in the future. Yes, teacher. Akaban nodded, and finally understood why Danza's clones came. The goal for using his genjutsu to train them was to overcome their fear of death. Now that the goal is achieved, of course, there is no need for him to continue to come here. But if you are interested in the route, you can come here anytime. Danza continued. No, I'm not interested. Akaban without the slightest hesitation refused. This pot is too heavy, you can always carry it on your back, I can't afford it. Danza nodded, and the clone disappeared. Passing through the passageway, his footsteps gradually slowed down, and he looked back towards the cave where the root base was. The current root team is a bunch of dead men. Overcoming their fear of death, in a sense, means they wouldn't be afraid to sacrifice their life. Forget it, it's not my problem anyway, I should instead focus on my draft, Akaban mumbled. Akaban closed his eyes, cast aside the thoughts in his mind, and turned to the village. Now with his new physique, it would be no problem to summon 2 shadow clones at the same time. He secretly thought in his heart. When passing by the manga shop, Akaban saw someone copying and drawing something in front of the door. Jiraiya? No, it doesn't seem to be. He immediately thought of Jiraiya, but through the gaps in the crowd, it was not Jiraiya's ridiculous outfit. Who is it? He originally planned to go home directly, but seeing someone also interested in drawing made him a little curious. The painting is very good. Yes, it looks similar. He seems to be the little kid from the Yai family. When Akaban got close to the crowd surrounding the kid, their conversation was heard by him. He wanted to see what's happening, but due to his height and since he was only years old, he couldn't see it due to the adult people surrounding the kid. After pondering for a while, he directly jumped onto his roof. Although he couldn't see what was going on, he could still see some things. Akaban looked down and saw a boy sitting in the center of the crowd with a drawing board and drawing paper in front of him, and the pen in his hand waved quickly. He didn't paint a woman like a certain pervert. And the picture on the paper is one of the scenes of the confrontation between Kakashi and Zabuza. Yui, if I remember correctly, his name should be Shinyui. Akaban was very impressed, and immediately remembered the name of the kid. This guy is in the same class as himself, and he has very strong chakra control ability and is very good at genjutsu. No. Shinyui shook his head and tore off the drawing on the drawing board. Some people didn't understand it, and finally couldn't help but start to talk and asked, "You draw much better than the one called Jiraiya, why do you want to tear it off? It's not the same." Shinyui shook his head, with a trace of confusion on his face. What he wants is not only painting, but also the essence and spirit in the painting, but he can't do these at all. But Akaban has to admit that this guy is much more talented than Jiraiya's in terms of drawing. It's because you are just copying, you don't have your own style. Copying? My own style? Shinyui froze for a moment since he didn't understand what it meant, but he suddenly thought, whose voice is it just now? Young master, how did you go there? Kurama Yunlane doesn't need to look, since, from his voice alone, he can already know that it was Akaban. It's cooler here. Akaban answered badly. Tall people are all around outside the shop, how can he see it without being on the roof? Shinyui fell into contemplation, just copy. You should draw your own painting. In addition, I think your painting can enhance the construction of your own illusion if you did it right, but if you want to build a sufficiently stable and perfect illusion, the premise is that your spiritual energy is strong enough. Akaban was unusually patient and talked a lot with Shinyui, and the little boy who was attentively listening was shocked. At this time, the crowd had separated automatically, and everyone looked at Akaban from below. The words coming from Akaban are quite crucial, especially for those clans that specialize in genjutsu. Shinyui was shocked, and then took a deep breath and said, "You can already build a perfect illusory domain. Almost, you can also do it with enough practice and training." After Akaban finished speaking, he made a hand seal of a body flicker jutsu with both hands. And the next second, Akaban disappeared on the roof. So fast. Everyone was shocked. A little kid, who was only 10 years old, was already this scary. He is really strong, to have reached this level. Shin-Yui was stunned for a long time. His eyes gradually became more and more determined, seeing how strong Akaban. I see, Akaban, thank you. Shin-Yui. If he does, he can definitely learn my skills and become a stable and qualified assistant. Thinking about it, Akaban is still a little happy in his heart. Maybe he can also play a game. No, even anime is also possible. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was really a good idea. Just when he thought of this possibility, he suddenly thought of how to convince Shin-Yui. Of course, in fact, he can do this himself. But using genjutsu to maintain anime and games, not to mention that work is monotonous and boring, which he won't enjoy doing a solo at all. What's the point of that? So seeing Shin-Yui, who was interested in painting, he couldn't be happier. As long as he fools him over, he can watch anime and play games by himself, which is no better than being a boring assistant. I really look forward to it. I hope he can grow up soon. Well, I will help him more in the future. The more he thinks about it, the happier Akaban becomes. It is not easy to find this kind of seedling in Konoha. He was walking while thinking. Unconsciously he had returned to the door of his house. Although he was outside the door, little Loli, who inside, sensed him the moment he entered her range. She ran in his direction from inside and greeted him happily. Akaban, Big Brother is back. Little Tomiko is really amazing. Big Brother hasn't arrived yet, but you still found me. Akaban squatted down and touched her hair. It's really an amazing ability. Kurama Izumu sighed with some worry. As a special jonin, after a few days of getting along, of course, he can see the innate talent of Uzumaki Tomiko. The sensing ability of this level, when she is just a child, is already terrifying, so when she grows up in the future, her ability will only become stronger and stronger, that she will become a fearsome weapon of war. That's why Kurama Izumu was worried for her if her ability got known by the higher-ups of the village. I'm back, Dad, I'll go up and put things first. Okay, go, Izumu said with a sigh. Akaban went directly to his room upstairs after greeting his father and the little Loli. Entering his room, Akaban put his things down the bed and without hesitation, made a hand seal and cast a jutsu. Shadow Clone Jutsu. But this time, instead of one clone, he directly summoned two of them at the same time. Number 1 is responsible for episodes 26 to episode 29, number 2 starts from episode 30. Jay, how about you? As a true body, you should do it too. After summoning the two, Akaban directly assigned them to their mission, but of course, being Akaban himself, his clone already complained when they got his order. Of course, I also have a mission. You must complete your own first. Akaban replied badly. Shadow Clone is easy to use, but it can be difficult to adapt to the strange situation caused by individual awareness. I really miss my first clone, who was simple, hardworking, and not asking for rewards when I first learned the Shadow Clone. Akaban though. He wants to cry, but there is no tear coming out. In fact, Akaban did not lie to them. During this period of time, he really wanted to rush out the plot of Land of Waves and start painting the One Piece comics as soon as possible, and the plan should be like this. His two clones will paint Naruto while he himself paints the comic of One Piece. But of course, expectation and reality are not always the same. As the main body, being lazy is his privilege. Although he seemed to be very diligent in the eyes of others, in fact, all he did was finish what his clone started. Big brother, there are 3 big brothers. Without him knowing, little Loli pushed the door open. She was about to say something, but she was startled when she saw 3 Akaban inside his room looking at her at the same time. It's little Tomiko, what's the matter? So she can't come if she has nothing to do. Is that what you hear? Hearing the 2 bickers, Akaban clenched his teeth. These 2 clones are his own, so why can't they do a simple greeting? They even argue over it. Are you both a child? Feeling a headache from these 2, Akaban made a hand seal. Bang! And the 2 clones disappeared at the same time. Seeing the 2 troublemakers disappear, he sighs and then looks at the little Loli with a stiff smile and said, "It's just the shadow clone of Big Brother, so don't worry about it." "Oh, so this kind of chakra is a shadow clone." Little Loli mumbled and nodded her head thoughtfully. "By the way, why did you come here?" Hearing her brother, little Loli, who looked thoughtful just a second ago, suddenly became excited and said, "Oh yes, Uncle Yamano is here with a lot of manga." And she even excitedly gestures using both of her hands to show to her big brother how many of the manga is. Again, Akaba was slightly startled since it's just recently he received the manga and now there's another batch. Their efficiency sure is fast. "Fortunately, I worked overtime today to finalize the remaining plots of Land of Waves," he thought. Akaban was secretly surprised but at the same time more delighted. Because the higher their efficiency, the more comics they can make, which is a great thing for him. "Okay, I understood," Akaban replied, and then turned his head and glanced at the sky. It's about evening, including the promotion and banners. It was too late to open the store. But thinking about the banner made him again have a headache. Forget it, I should prepare it myself. It would be a mistake to give it to Yun Lang. Thinking about the banner Yun Lang wrote made him sigh. Akaban sat down and wondered what slogan would be better. After thinking for a while, his eyes suddenly gleamed, and grabbed the paper and brush on his bed and wrote something on it. "What is this?" Little Loli, who was at the side and reading comics, stopped what she was doing and came over to Akaba's side and leaned her head curiously. "Tomorrow morning, multi-party cooperation." Tomiko, don't read it out." Akaban, who heard the little Loli voice reading what he was writing, immediately stopped her due to embarrassment. "Why?" the little Loli asked cutely. Akaba, who saw her cute little face, still didn't budge. "Anyway, don't read it out." After saying that, he continued writing, and after a few seconds, he was almost finished making his banner. He also carefully painted some anime characters around the banner as an embellishment. "Pretty." Little Tomiko, who saw the anime drawing, exclaimed when she saw it, and her eyes were shining. He. Akaban smiled hearing her praise and folded the banner, then took out a blank sheet of paper. "Next is the poster." "What are these for?" "Publicity stuff, must be hung out at night." Akaban briefly explained to little Loli that compared to banner posters, there are also many ways to use it, like posting it on the road, etc. Within a few minutes, he was done. "Is Big Brother going out?" "I want to go too." By setting up the scene and promoting in advance, the sales will be higher tomorrow for sure. As for little Tomiko, she just arrived in an unfamiliar environment, so it is good for her to be able to go for a walk, and Akaban will certainly not refuse. At the manga shop. "Mr. Akaban hasn't come yet." "Yes, but I have sent someone to relay the message that you come, so the young master should be on his way," Kurama Yun Lang said apologetically. It's okay, I'll wait a while. Izumi Yamano nodded his head in understanding. The comics have been arranged already, so he can come back tomorrow if Akaban didn't show up. At this moment, a tall and short silhouette appeared not far away. Sorry, I'm late. Akaban apologized and continued, because I have to organize some things, I came a little late. It's okay, Mr. Akaban, do you have a manga for me to take back this time? The reason Izumi Yamano waited is for the update of the story. Yes, this is the 6th volume. There are a total of 8 chapters. So you can print it all at once. Akaban then took out the 6th volume of the comics and handed it to him, then said, during this period of time, I apologize for making you work hard. No, it's nothing, as you are more tired as the author. Izumi Yamano laughed. Each manga only sells 100 tiles, but the cost to create it is relatively low. So their factory can make a lot of money due to printing manga. Akaban only nodded his head when he heard it. It's not like he can tell the truth that he only copied it from the original author. So he imminently changed the topic and called his shopkeeper. Yunling, go to the old place and hang up this banner. Akaban said, then he passed the banner to Yunling, who had a troubled face. Ah, young master, so you are done. Kurama Yunling touched his head awkwardly and kicked the banner that he used last time under the table with his feet to hide it. He originally planned to continue using the last one, but if he wants to say that now, he was sure that he will be scolded. Yunling looked at the folded banner on his hand. Since young master made it, it should be good, he thought. So out of curiosity, he unfolded the banner and read the slogan written on it. Tomorrow morning, the Naruto manga will be updated. And also at the same time, we will promote both the culture and styles for all the people in the ninja world to see. So long. Kurama Yunling was startled for a moment, then couldn't help thinking in secret. Apart from the opening 2 sentences, do the latter have any special meaning? Probably my level is not high enough to understand the mystery of this banner. Kurama Yunling thought to himself, and then looked towards the poster being arranged. The poster is quite normal. Zabuza and Kakashi are facing each other on the bridge, and in the background are the ninja named Haku and Uchiha Sasuke. Just looking at the painting, he can feel the tense atmosphere and was already eager to read their fights. And under the slogan, there is a list of what's about to happen. From the clue given, readers can already expect what's about to happen in the story, like Zabuza vs Copy Ninja, Naruto Bridge. Really worthy of being a young master. Just witnessing these things made Kurama Yunling admire his young master Mori and more, and felt that the banner in his hand had a profound mystery that he could not see. Konoha didn't have yet an advertising fee. So Yunling hung up the banner on the street effortless. And after posting it, he finally couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked when he came back. Young master, I read your slogan, although I don't understand what it means, it feels very powerful at first glance. Does it have any deep meaning? Oh, that, it's just a matter of interest, so I wrote it like that. Akaban answered faintly. So that's how it is, really worthy of being a young master. Kurama Yunling exclaimed in admiration and was ashamed for what he was thinking earlier. Young master should have seen the banner I used earlier, and definitely couldn't stand it, so he wrote one himself, he thought. It's fine if you understand. Akaban patted his shoulder and said, and then beckons little Loli's hand. And since he didn't have anything else to do here, the two of them walked back home. Walking on the road, the little Loli couldn't hold her curiosity, and asked in a low voice, Big brother, that big brother explained. What does it mean? Well, this is the mystery of propaganda. Akaban replied after hesitating for a moment. To be honest, he didn't understand what Kurama Yunlane was feeling about. That slogan was just a momentary taste, that's all. As long as the promotion can attract people's attention, make people notice it, and understand the core content, then it is enough. Such as this. Promote, culture, and so on are not important, the point is that manga has been updated. Anyway, no matter how you write it, it's better than Kurama Yunlane's boring slogan, but Kurama Yunlane seems to have misunderstood a little bit now. What is the mystery? These are not important, I am a little tired now, we have to go back and take a good rest. Akaban rubbed his temple to ease mental and physical exhaustion. 2 shadow clones are summoned at the same time, while the main body is also working, so even if his life force increases, it's still overwhelming for him. However, this exhaustion is not too exaggerated, as his body can still bear it. Yes. A weird slogan, but it looks quite interesting. This kind of banner is really interesting. In the early morning next day, many people immediately saw the banners hanging on the street when they were walking, with the banners painted with various characters that made it so dazzling. Kurama Yunlane, who posted it, felt proud and smiled from ear to ear. In just one morning, they sold the amount that could only be sold the day before. Although Konoha is so big, the total number of people buying manga is not much different, but it is enough to show that Akaban's publicity banner is very effective. Kurama Yunlane returned to the store and roughly counted the quantity sold. At this time, a familiar voice came from his ear. Promote ninja culture. A guy who has the least ninja spirit wants to promote it. Third Hokage. Kurama Yunlane was startled, and turned around to bow and salute, but saw the third Hokage wave his hand to let him continue to do his own thing. Although he got permission, but how can he do that? Since the Hokage is here, Kurama Yunlane can't be at ease. After much deliberation, he clenched his teeth and asked, Lord Hokage, should I call the young master over? No, I'll just come and take a look at the store, not to find him. The third Hokage picked up a 5th volume and said while flipping through it. Ha! Isn't this the girl next to Zabuza? The third Hokage was startled seeing an enemy on Naruto's side and thought, sleeping in the forest and encountering such an enemy, did Naruto's teacher not think of it? He was curious and wanted to turn the page, but he couldn't hold back his eyes and looked at Haku, who was wearing a kimono, for a few seconds. No, I should pay attention to Naruto, he is a protagonist. The third Hokage shook his head and thought, then continued reading. But she is really good looking, I'm really curious about what she will look like. Cough cough. What's wrong with Lord Hokage, do you need water? Kurama Yunlane asked curiously. No, it's just that my throat is itchy. The third Hokage shook his head, then put 200 tiles on the table and said, I forgot to bring money last time, so this time I will pay it together. Yes. Kurama Yunlane put the money in the drawer. After putting the money, Yunlane looked up again but saw that the third Hokage had already walked out with the book in his hand and said, Lord Hokage, walk slowly. Ha ha ha, don't be so polite. The third Hokage smiled and waved, and then continued to read the comic's plot. So gentle to the enemy, what a lovely girl. Seeing her action, the third Hokage sighed with emotion, he already likes this quiet, soft, and kind-hearted girl in the painting more and more, but it is a pity such a child, unfortunately, followed a rogue ninja like Zabuza. So that's how it is. In childhood she was abandoned and became a vagrant. And in the end, met Zabuza. What a pitiful child. The third Hokage was taken aback when he read her past, then sighed softly. There are too many orphans like this during the war. But a child that can still maintain their kind-hearted nature and innocence in this kind of environment is very rare. A girl like Haku is really amazing. However, after turning the page, a few words came into his sights in an instant. I am not a woman. Nani? Dismal, astonished, unbelievable. When the third Hokage read it, his expression turned red, then it changed to green and last became white. His face looked like a kid who tasted his poop and thought of it as chocolate. Male. How is it possible, Akaban? This guy drew the image of a woman, insisting on saying that he is a boy. Such an outrageous setting, I absolutely cannot agree with it. The third Hokage became angry. No, it's as uncomfortable as eating shit. A good female character appeared, and when he really likes it, she tells him that she is a man. Jiraiya, this period of time is in Mount Myoboku size. If he sees this manga, it is really hard to imagine what will happen. When the third Hokage thought of it, he felt melancholy. He took out his pipe and smoked while walking. Tsunade was on the way to the comic shop to buy a new volume, but she saw her teacher walking down the street, so she tried to greet him, "Teacher." However, the third Hokage didn't seem to hear her and continued walking forward. So when Tsunade arrived where she saw her teacher, there was no one there. What's going on? So Tsunade was a little confused. With the strength of the third Hokage, it is impossible to not hear her at ordinary times. By the way, he seems to be holding a manga in his hand. What content makes the teacher like this? She was surprised and curious. Originally, there was still a long time before she arrived at the comic shop, but using a body flicker jutsu, she arrived soon. Young master hasn't come yet. Kurama Yunlane saw Tsunade and subconsciously said, "Whoever is looking for that pig, I will buy manga." Tsunade said angrily when she heard Yunlane mentioning Akaban. Hearing her reply made Yunlane think, it seems that she came for the betting poster. However, in the next second, she picked up a comic, and instead of turning the page quickly like before to immediately start the lottery, she turned to the first page and started reading the plot. Shocked, Kurama Yunlane is surprised seeing her action, that Tsunaheim, who loves gambling, for once didn't care about it. Is the latest plot is so magical? Yunlane though. He was very curious, and quietly picked up a book and turned a page or two. Earlier, he didn't read yet since he was busy, and with the arrival of the Hokage, it becomes unthinkable. Ha! Not long after, the two cried out in surprise at the same time. Haku is a man. This is too much, no wonder that old pervert is absent-minded today. Tsunade said to herself. And after a few seconds, she couldn't help but start laughing. Two perverts, one big and one small. When Jiraiya sees this plot, he will probably doubt his life sooner though. Now, she is more eager for Jiraiya to see this volume and watch his expression. I'll go find Akaban, this guy did a good thing. No need, I'm already here. Akaban yawned after he gave her a listless reply. Young master, how can this, to be a man, she is obviously a woman. Kurama Yunlane complains since it's also hard for him to accept it. He said he was not a woman, is he really not a woman? Akaban did not answer directly but asked instead. What do you mean? Kurama Yunlane didn't quite understand, he was a little confused. On the contrary, Tsunade immediately understood. You mean she is afraid that Zabuza will not accept it, so she pretends to be a man. For 1,001 readers, there will be 1,000 that will also think the same. You think she is a female, maybe some people think she is a male. The plot and personal settings are never fixed. Akaban lightly said with a smile. So that's how it is. Tsunade nodded thoughtfully when she heard Akaba's explanation and closed the book. She was a little disappointed in her heart and thought, Sarutobi-sensei probably thought of this too much earlier, then comforted herself. Have Jiraiya been here this morning? No. Kurama Yunlane took the book and replied, and it took him a few seconds before he realized that Akaban was not talking to him. He was in Mount Myoboku recently, so he didn't have time to come here. Tsunade picked up the next book, replied, and began to religiously turn the book. Mount Myoboku. That's a shame. Akaban sighed. There is no way to immediately see Jiraiya's expression. It's okay, that guy can't stand loneliness, he will appear soon. Tsunade said nonchalantly. At this time, she had already turned over one book and continued to work on the next one. While turning over, she said, that guy said the day before yesterday that he is very strong now. As a result, I only use one finger. And use it to press him to death. Your chakra-enhanced strengthening technique is ridiculous, how can you compare it? Akaban murmured secretly. But what Tsunade said is also correct, that Jiraiya is really not a person who can stand loneliness. Ha 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 ha, I saw the manga update when I came back, so it is really true. Ha. Tsunade looked back in surprise, and then a hint of joy appeared on her face. Tsunade, bring me a copy. Jiraiya rushed to her, and he asked Tsunade to pick one for him before he arrived. Tsunade, hearing it, didn't rage like always, instead, she picked up a copy from the shelf. Jiraiya took it and shook her hand. Hey, there is a poster. This uncle is really lucky. He laughed happily, trying to irk Tsuna. If it was like before, Tsuna will definitely punch him, but this time she didn't, which made the laughing Jiraiya stop. What's this situation? Jiraiya felt a little strange, but didn't think too much about it and found a seat near the door and started reading. Whoa, it's my lovely young lady Haku. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, share and subscribe the channel if you like the video. Also tell me your recommendations in the comment section down below. See you next time.